We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Looking for the right truck for your business? Then it has to be a new Ford Super Duty, the 2024 North American Truck of the Year. Rated America's #1 heavy-duty truck for dependability and driver satisfaction by J.D. Power. Shop hundreds of new Ford Super Duty and F-150 models now and see all our incentives at BaxterFord.com. At Baxter Ford, we won't sell you a car. We'll help you buy one. No handoffs, no hassles, and no hidden fees. Upgrade your work truck now to a new Super Duty from Baxter Ford.
An event bigger than the game. The annual Creighton versus Cancer Pinkout game. Coverage begins Saturday at 11 a.m. Tip-off is at 12:30 against the Seton Hall Pirates. Creighton basketball on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
If you're considering a career in broadcasting, 1620 The Zone and the Nebraska Broadcasters Association Foundation can help you become part of this exciting field. 3 $2,000 scholarships are available to 4-year college and university students who will have completed 30 credits as of May 31st, 2025. Let us help you reach your career goals. For more information, contact 1620 The Zone or click ne-ba.org. Application deadline is March 1st, 2025.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it. Did you know that 1 in 4 people seeking treatment for ED are under 40? So you're not alone. And even better, Hims can help. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs at up to 95% less than the brand names when you get started at hims.com/radio. It all starts with an online intake form. From there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. Through hims.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard.
1620 The Zone. Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. 1620thezone.com and 1620 The Zone TV. Now, here's Gary, Matt, and Jimmy.
Good Friday morning. It is a Friday football fiesta here on 1620 The Zone. Gary and Matt, I think we have a new box here. Did we put it in here?
Whoa.
Oh, there we go.
Is that a new box?
That's a new box.
Wow. Asking you shall receive.
We were a little startled there for a second because we were like, we can't hear anything that's going on.
Guys, not that much could have changed in here. I was here last week.
Matt
all right?
McMaster, that's what happened. He said we needed a new box. We got a new
Don't need
box.
quarter-inch jack
I think
anymore.
that is the first time in my life, not just like corporate life, not just radio life, just life. You know, like even like with my mother and father, where I go, hey, by the way, this is like kind of broken, and we might need a new one. And actually,
all right, you got it.
Not that we might need a new one, we definitely need a new one, and it'd be great if we could have it. And I think when we mentioned that to people yesterday, we were like, okay, this will be like a month or two, before, because it's no disrespect to our great people here who work at 1620.
No, this is loving them.
But this is just
this
life.
is wanting better.
This is just life in general. You're like, you go to your work, you're like, hey, we might need this because it's broken, and then you got to wait a little bit. No, it is here. We have a new. Don't need we water. Can actually hear each other.
That was weird though to immediately. For me, because I'm not in here every day.
Yeah, you're not in here every. Oh, by the way, this is Gary and Matt. I'm Matt McMaster. I'm joined today. My co-host for today's show, Mr. Caleb Henry, the writer of Husker Max on the ones and twos, is Jimmy Chavez. Gary Sharp, not in today. on the road again. He's on a plane. He's going to Oklahoma as your 7-0 in the Summit League.
Number 1 in the Summit.
Number 1 in your hearts.
Omaha Mavericks take on the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles this weekend.
They played Inspired for you last night.
I mean, they play Inspired for me every time I watch it, Jimmy. You know,
he's going to hockey this weekend.
Inspiring.
I went up to Mr. Tony Osborne, who the shooting guard, the starting shooting guard for the Omaha Mavericks, who had a really, really good game yesterday.
During the game, he went up to him.
Nope. After the game, I went up to
Osborne shooting free. What the hell's this?
Tony. Listen, Tony came on the show a couple days ago. He was an awesome interview. He came on.
Listen up, Tony. Now, if you know what's good for you's gonna make these free throws, huh?
Tony was a phenomenal interview. He's a phenomenal guy. He's one of a kind. They're 6-0. Sorry, I said that wrong. They're 6-0.
No. Freudian slip. They're gonna be 7-0 after tomorrow.
No, they very well could be 7-0 after tomorrow because Oral Roberts is 1-5 in the conference, and they are not having good seasons. Injury riddled. Just have not been able to put it together this year. But I went up to Tony after the game. I go, hey Tony, thank you so much for coming on the show. Like that was awesome. He's like, oh no, appreciate it, man. Hey, you're a good luck charm. Okay, he told me that. Because I had mentioned on the radio. It's confirmed. I had mentioned on the radio.
It's confirmed.
No.
I had mentioned on the radio.
No.
Matt McKeeter.
I said to Tony, I said, look, hey, dude, you guys haven't lost since I've officially moved to Omaha in the Summit League. You guys haven't taken an L yet. Here I am. Is it coincidence?
Ooh, now do the Buffalo Bills. Come on, please.
I
we
think
need
not. No. We'll talk about that. It's a Friday football fiesta here on Gary and Matt. It's sad. And I was thinking like walking in the hallway because you got to think of these intros before like you get on the air. At least that's what they say. You got to think about what you say before when you intro these
You mean the intro isn't everyone panicking going, why can't I hear anything in the first 30 seconds of the show?
And I go, yeah, it's a Friday. And I looked at Jimmy sends us a StreamYard link, and the StreamYard link has a name to it, and the name was Friday Football Fiesta. And I was just thinking, this is like the last one. We don't have we have one left after this one.
That's it.
Hold on for dear life, people, because football is going away and no one wants that to happen.
You mean this is the
basketball
penultimate?
There you go.
Got to use that
Look,
word.
you only have a finite amount of football games in your life. Okay? You only have so many that you're going to watch and you're going to sit down and enjoy with a nice cold Sprite, water, glass of milk.
As
Miller
life
Lite.
goes on, that beverage, changes.
It changes. Sweet tea, whatever it may be, whatever your beverage of choice.
Insulin.
I'm working my way back around to the milk.
And eventually morphine.
But we have to enjoy it. We have to soak it in. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Nebraska Cornhuskers who have an opportunity to turn their season around on Sunday when they take on the ranked Wisconsin Badgers. And then Creighton has a big game tomorrow against Seton Hall. And then also Creighton women playing a massive game. Hey, credit to FS1. They've been marketing the crap out of Paige Beckers coming into town to take on the Creighton Blue Jays. We got a really good lineup for you today.
That's going to be a good crowd for that one.
Oh, it's got to be a hell of a crowd. You got a pink out at 1:30, and then you have the Beckers train rolling in. I think that's at
4:30.
I think it's at 5:30.
But yeah, it's a doubleheader.
It is a doubleheader.
That's what I saw.
Can they leave and go get trashed between games?
Maybe
it's supposed to be a nice day.
Go to
tomorrow.
Black.
I want more schools to do that. It doesn't seem like it happens very often.
A doubleheader.
And I realize that some places they play at different arenas for some of their contests. But I love that Creighton is doing this. I want a lot more places to do this where sometimes it's just the way it works. It's the way of our world. The men's attendance is higher than the women's attendance. But when you can back-to-back those, and especially when you have two successful programs, I love that they're doing this.
You buy a ticket to one, but you get admission to both, and then they just kind of split it down the middle.
Yeah.
That'd be a really good fundraiser.
I think that'd be awesome. As a matter of fact,
basketball.
I was a little bit disappointed.
All proceeds go to the zone.
That's one way to get the extra equipment in here.
Yeah, maybe.
Just trying to help.
I was a little bit disappointed that the Nebraska Creighton games this year got split up. I was really hoping those would have ended up being a doubleheader.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Not on a Friday night.
Sure.
Right.
That would have been enjoyable. But we got the AFC and NFC championship games. Bills versus Chiefs, Commanders versus Eagles. I love that. Like, there are just two opposite storylines that are heading into that one.
One team everyone loves, one team everyone
As a
loves.
Bears fan, how do you feel that there's a quarterback that the Bears passed up on who is still playing?
We don't have to talk about that.
Okay.
Right. This
No, you got a coach now. You're on your way back.
We can talk about the little.
I just want to get the
talk
knife
about-
twisting a little early.
Talk about NFL coaches, man. It's been a whirlwind of an up and a down. If you're a Raider and a Saints fan, you are mad. If you're a Dallas fan, I don't know how you feel. As just Jerry is in the dark and you don't know what the heck is going on. If you're a Jaguars fan, I think you're happy. I think you're. I don't.
What if you're a Buccaneers fan? That's been a lot of back and forth.
You know what? Do you really get that mad when you lose a coordinator though? Like, these guys are. Look, I understand. Coordinators.
But it's the way it went down though. It's not just losing a coordinator.
It had nothing to do with the Buccaneers. He wasn't trying to stretch the Buccaneers or negotiate the Buccaneers into a better deal. He just simply didn't want to work with former Jacksonville GM Trent Bolton, who now has since been fired, and Cohen is now the head coach and will definitely be a factor when picking the next GM, which what a power move. We'll get into that as well, but we'll start. Oh, also, too, Omaha Mavericks hockey play a massive game today and tomorrow against St. Cloud State. That'll be massive, the NCHC. Got a lot to get to. We'll start, though, with something that happened 2 days ago as Nebraska basketball dropped their 5th in a row to the mighty USC Trojans, St. Thomas, Omaha native, Miller North product.
Will they ever win again?
And
St. Thomas, the person, not the Tommy.
The reason why
impressive.
The reason why we are talking about this is because, Caleb, no offense, I think your best sport that you write for and that you cover is basketball. That's nothing to do with nothing to go against your football.
No, and I actually tell people that too, because as much as I love football, at the end of the day, guess what? Football pays the bills. You got to be able to talk about it, and know about it.
Absolutely.
And I grew up in a sports household, and I know it. But when I was less than a week, I was in his high school gym while my dad was coaching varsity. Like, basketball is about as in my bones as any sport possibly could. So yes, when it comes to what is the sport that I love covering the most, it is basketball.
Absolutely. What a spiral! What a difference 3 weeks can make.
I
mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. If you're looking at Bracket Matrix, that's kind of the site that we.
Man,
use.
I haven't looked at any of those in 3 weeks.
Okay, so I'll tell you right now.
I go by them. They
Nebraska
tell me.
basketball is either the 11th seed or they are out. Okay, so they are firmly on the boat. You were playing this song yesterday.
I know.
Can I ask why?
I wasn't in here yesterday.
Yeah, he wasn't in here yesterday.
I know, but why?
Do you remember
are
the
playing
end of
this
La
song?
Bamba when Richie's dead?
Oh,
you never see it? Great movie. Great movie. You should see it. Yeah, it just, as you guys were talking,
About
it just
a
felt,
dead corpse?
Yeah. Once Gary said Nebraska's cooked, I just thought,
Bada La Bamba?
Yeah.
Is that what you thought?
Yeah, well, they died.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Fair
want to.
enough.
I mean, I'm not giving anything away. We all know that the music died that day in 1959 in a field outside of Clear Lake, Iowa. Well, it appears that season for Nebraska basketball died in an arena Wednesday night.
Not dead yet.
Well,
or are they?
Those are the chants you need out of the student section. We're not
So
dead
Cook,
yet.
my dear McMaster, give me hope.
Yeah, what else is going on?
I'm not
here?
going to give you. What do you mean? I'm going to give you hope? I ain't giving you any hope. What are you talking about?
And then you
there
just
is-
gave me honesty. I
there's
appreciate
zero.
that more.
Nebraska's the 11th seed, or they're out of the tournament. In bracket matrix, they are 11. So look, I know that we are in dire times here in the Nebraska basketball program, but they still firmly do have an opportunity to make the tournament, despite the fact that Bryce Williams and Jawan Gary got on the podium after the game yesterday, and it looked like a funeral.
See? That's why I played the song.
Which, if the result of the game and the results of the 4 games before that didn't already upset you a bit, that, I think, probably sent a lot of people over the edge and really thought, oh, it is over. Because wouldn't you like those guys who've been through so much basketball, who came back to the program literally to go back to the tournament to do what hasn't been done before at Nebraska? Wouldn't you like for them to be like, no one's pressing the panic button here. We're going to be okay. We're going to be fine.
Well, there's out of the kind of the 3 emotions you take in there, where it's I'm okay, and this is after a loss. So,
walk me through this. This is great.
Happy is not the emotion you're going to get in there. So removing that, the other 3 emotions are going to be you're either super dejected, you're kind of, we're going to be okay, or you're pissed off. Give me either of those last two, where it's, hey, we're rallying together, things didn't go our way, and that's what you got out of Fred Hoiberg.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of even-keeled. He's always, hey, we're figuring it out, didn't do the things that we needed to do, but we're getting there. Out of your two players, you got, we just got to stick together. I didn't show enough leadership. I want you guys pissed off.
Just call us glue.
Like you're 0-5 in your last 5. You'd beaten number 15 UCLA. And I know Broken Mick has had his issues.
Broken Mick has had major issues.
That's a him problem, though.
But you did beat a ranked team. And you were 20-0 in your last 20 home games. Like, things were going really well.
We were talking about...
You were 12-2 on the season. And then now you go on a 5-game skid, lose back-to-back home games against teams you should have beaten, absolutely. Should have beaten Iowa on the road. Should have gotten another. Like, out of those 5, you actually should have probably gone 4-1, to be in all honesty. At the very least, 3-2. Instead, you go 0-5. Why are you coming in there just going, I'm super depressed and I'm not a good leader and we have to find a way to stick together? I don't know what the heck that locker room looks like. If your two biggest leaders who've been part of the program are coming out there and looking as down and out as they were, instead of coming out and being like, I don't like anything about what this 5-game stretch is. I'm pissed off and we're going to fix it. Like, give me that.
Throw a mic or something.
Please. Something that's not just,
table.
It's not working.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point.
At least we're in college.
Where, tell me the difference between Nebraska basketball and Nebraska football over the last 5 years.
Ooh.
Because let's talk the last 5 years of Nebraska football versus the last 5 games of Nebraska basketball. Okay? This is an honest conversation. Last 5 years of Nebraska football, you cannot deny that they haven't been competitive. You cannot deny that they've had talented players and good stories and dudes where, you know, who've actually contributed on the football field that you're going to remember. It's funny. It was 8 years of losing, a historic 8-year run of basically not making a bowl game. Yet there were so many players that off the top of your head that you can name that made an impact on you as a football fan that you remember playing that you might have fond memories of, right? JoJo Doman, Austin Allen, Jack Stoll. You can go to, Anthony Grant had one really, really good year. You know, you can go down the list of Adrian Martinez was really good for the 4 years that he was here. You have Gifford and you have Henrich and you have Luke Reimer and you got John Bolt. Like you have these players who, you weren't successful, but all those names, all those guys that I named were pretty good. And a lot of the games, how many one-score games has Nebraska football lost during that time, right? You cannot say, well, this is an absolute dumpster fire. They're absolutely terrible because they're in every game. They just can't close the door. These last 5 games of Nebraska basketball, they have good players. When this is all said and done, when the dust is settled, the season is over, and some of these guys graduate and go, you're still going to probably have more fond memories about Bryce Williams, than the latter, right? You're still going to be like, look, did his last season go the way you wanted it to go? No, but he still overall was a really good player for Nebraska basketball. Same thing for Juwan Gary, but these last 5 games, they've been competitive. They've been in it. But there's also
been than in West Lafayette. Well, but that tracks with what you're saying is that there's a competitive game, there's a one-score game, something happens at the very end, you score late but don't quite get it done, you go to overtime in one, and you get blown out in another.
Yeah. And so Nebraska football, there almost became the stigma of, even when the team was up 10 in the fourth quarter, you're like, all right, hold on for dear life. Like, here we go. Like, you don't know.
They're punting from the goal line. Exactly. Let's prepare for disaster.
Exactly. And it's even when you had a lead, or even when, like, for any other normal fan, this game would have been won, or you're confident that this game would have been won. You're like, oh, it's Nebraska football, though. Like, if any team would find a way, it's this team. Heck, look at the Pinstripe Bowl. They firmly had that game in hand. And that exact thing happened where it's like, if any team would do this, it's this team. And then Ramir Johnson from the Clouds in his last swan song.
What a dude.
In his last game says, no, boys. Not on my watch.
Not in front of my dudes from the Bronx.
But with Nebraska basketball, I'm feeling that same vibe because...
But I want to know why.
Claude,
this team just went to the tournament last year.
Exactly.
Why is
sense.
Why as a fan base is it so woe is me? And I got, man, the amount of fighting I did on social media with Husker fans over the last 2 days is too damn high.
I'm sure.
No, and the reason being was at the under 4, Nebraska is down by 3. Now, maybe I caught a little bit of flack for this last week for pointing out the lack of fans at the end of the game for Creighton.
Yeah.
And I said, I am equal opportunity in my criticism.
You're an equal opportunity hater.
Absolutely.
Man after my own
heart. An under 4 timeout.
Yeah.
Nebraska is down 3 in a conference game.
Got a chance to win.
And people just a chance.
And
it's right there.
Which by the way, a few seconds later, the game is tied.
Yeah.
With 3:25 to go, the game is tied. Okay, great. Why are people leaving? And then everyone on social, not everyone, because there were a lot of people that agreed with me.
But it's like they knew.
But there were enough vocal people saying, oh, well, no, they knew how it was going to end. Why did you show up then?
Yeah.
Like if you know how, if it's the woe is me, I know this team is going to fold at the end.
How bad is this traffic?
Why?
Is it that bad?
It's not that bad.
Well,
it's not that
Is it the
bad.
405 leaving a Lakers game?
It depends on how I will say this. It depends on like where you're parked and how packed it is, and if there was an accident. Because if there was an accident, put him out the pasture. You're done. You're not getting out.
Leave it.
Hopefully not
then.
the accident.
Yeah.
No. I agree with you.
What are you doing there for 36 minutes of game time?
It makes zero sense. Why go to the game?
And I understand.
Just watch it from home.
If the argument is let people spend money how they want to get out of there, cool, fine.
But
that doesn't help the environment. That doesn't help if you want to go with they never get it done. Well, guess what? Iowa is probably going to have to make a coaching change because what did those fans do? They said, we're not showing up for this. And there are times that this is a little bit of a detriment to sending a message to administration for Nebraska fans because you do show up, because we show up so much even when things are going wrong.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily sending the same message when you see the other programs go, we're not showing up for that.
So here's the thing.
And I don't think Nebraska's at that place, by the way, to just not show up.
But the point of this is, look, in 3 weeks, you went from you are firmly a 7 seed, you are firmly an 8 seed.
12-2.
They're going to win one for Kent
in the NCAA tournament. You're like, we're talking about not about them not making the tournament. We're talking about, well, how does this team take the next step from 7 seed to 4 seed?
Mm-hmm. Where are they
going? How does this team go from probably should be ranked after beating UCLA to ranked and getting themselves into a good matchup in the NCAA tournament? Not just getting into hey, you're a 7-8 seed and you're also playing a competitive team. How do you get to the point where it's like you are firmly favored to win the game by a decent amount of points? How do you get to that point? And now 3 weeks later, this team, we're playing La Bamba music when we talk about them because they're dead.
Third best.
Well, and as I wrote yesterday, it's not, and I'm sure we'll talk about more stuff that I put out there, but it's officially danger zone for Nebraska men's basketball. And it's not just about can you as a program return to the NCAA tournament in back-to-back years. Now it's can you make the Big Ten tournament? Because with the expansion, not everybody makes the conference tournament in the Big Ten this year. 18 teams, for whatever reason on God's green earth, they decided, let's go with a 15-team tournament.
Of course.
And that way you can work in some of the buys and the double buys.
Yeah, you still need that advantage.
Nebraska's at 16.
Yeah.
So right now,
it might only get worse too.
So right now, Nebraska is
sound like me
on the outside, about to go to a ranked Madison before coming home to take on a ranked Illinois team, before going on the road to a ranked Oregon team up in the Pacific Northwest, and then they'll play Washington up there as well.
Let me finish the comparison. You go from 3 weeks. We're talking about this team potentially being a 4-5 seed to this team being out of the tournament, and during that time, to all circle back around to my original point, is you went from Nebraska basketball is a wagon at home. Nebraska basketball cannot be beat at home. Nebraska basketball is going to make the NCAA tournament to Husker football in 5 games because Claude hits that 3-pointer making it 72-69 with 43 seconds left. And nobody thought they were going to win that game afterwards. It's almost as if, a team makes a big comeback, scores a touchdown, or Iowa makes a big play, and you're like, they're going to hit this field goal. Minnesota's going to hit this field goal. That Ohio State's going to hit this field goal. You just know that this game is going to end up with USC winning. And it's just one of the most incredible turnarounds from not even turnarounds, the opposite. This is one of the most incredible collapses I've seen.
That was fast.
It was so fast. How did it happen? We
barely just got back from break.
Barely. And it's just now we're just in this pit of despair. Now, I will say this. So here's where we spin it. Here's where the Cubs fan comes out of me. If there was ever an opportunity to turn the season around, I'm just saying, if there was ever an opportunity to say, you know what, we're not going to feed into it. We're not gonna woe is me.
Let's get weird.
We're not gonna protest.
We're not gonna let whatever is happening on the court or maybe anything that's happening off the court affect us anymore. We're not gonna let our fan base separate themselves from this program, because if they go 0-8 during the stretch, I wonder what the attendance is going to be at PBA toward the end of the year. I'll give you a guess. It certainly won't be what it's been the last 2 years or year and a half at this point. In terms of, it's been 2 years, because even during the Bandamel time, they were selling out PBA and people were going because that team actually played inspiring basketball, unlike this team.
Because people want to get behind the program. Well, and they want to win. It's
that
fun.
Team 2 years ago had the stretch where you had the Bandamel injury, the Juwan Gary injury, and then took a little bit to adjust to what the team was going to be, lost a few in a row, and then turned it on. You got the emergence of Casey in February.
But that was the beginning of what we were 3 weeks ago saying was the turnaround of this program. What with 3 weeks ago, we were saying that was the moment this program started heading in the right direction. And as soon as we started on the upward trend, just like a NASDAQ stock, it just absolutely plummeted to the point where now there are people having legitimate conversations about the head coach's job security, which if you told me that 3 weeks ago, that there would be a legitimate,
hot board,
would legitimately be on the fire Fred Hoiberg train, I would have said that is crazy.
Reigning Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Which, I'll say this, obviously not. Anyone, you're not on that train. I'm not on that train. Jimmy, I don't think you're on that train. They go 0-10 though. They lose 10 straight in the Big Ten.
Then you're listening, unfortunately.
Then there's some look, in no way, shape, or form does Fred Hoiberg get let go after this.
Right.
That absolutely does not happen. But
if not,
there are some uncomfortable conversations that definitely will be had if this losing streak gets absolutely out of control. But all this to say, this is the moment. This is the moment. This is the game. This is the time. You're not going to have another one of these, really. Maybe against Illinois, if they beat Illinois at home, but then you're going on the road to the West Coast and Oregon, which has been absolutely really difficult for teams who are coming from Eastern time zones and Central time zones to win. And Oregon is a very good basketball team on top of all of that, playing on the West Coast.
Shout out, Ducks.
This is the moment. Turn your season around.
Nebraska has two true road wins on the year. At Hawaii, just because you happen to play the host.
Yeah, the Big Ten's getting ridiculous.
And then at Omaha. And that at Omaha one, I'll say this, it still looked like Creighton early on, by the way, wasn't at full strength, but also I think was still figuring out who they were after losing NBA dudes. It takes a little bit of time to adjust to that. And because it was early enough in the season, and Nebraska's defense was built to take away a dominant big man, whether or not, and he'd scored 50 or almost 50 against UTRG Alphabet to open the season.
Nice.
So he's the defender first, but there is often a lot of offensive potential. But Nebraska's defense was built essentially for what Creighton was in that game, and Nebraska had success that way. Those are Nebraska's only two true road wins this season.
I think the biggest concern, though, about this 5-game stretch, and I think anyone who's watched this team or been to the games can really attest to this, is the fact that it just seems like there's less of an effort on the defensive end. Not by everybody, because
it's a step slow for sure.
It's a step slow. It's slower. And Sam Hoiberg ain't a step slow. Say
No.
that. I don't want to get ahead of that.
Do you talk about
Sam.
a guy who has, for all of the effort he pours into everything, back-to-back home games, when you're in the full court press or trying to deny the inbounds, he fell down the last two. And I don't know, a foot slips or a knee goes or something. That's just, I know for him, like we can look at it and be like, he fell down. For him and the amount of effort he puts into every play, that's got to be so disappointing for him on his own shoulders, let alone anything from the outside.
And it's one of those, it's really concerning when you can really point out the fact that, hey, that's a lazy closeout. Or, hey, that's
and we can do that too much right now.
Like, hey, you're not rotating at the manner in which you used to rotate. And with Gary's here, we talked about it briefly when I said, well, look, one of the reasons like why you want so much skill is that if you have more skill, you don't necessarily have to play this high energy, high intensity basketball game 24/7 all the time. There are moments where you can just give the ball to a guy and let him go to the basket and let him score. I think that Nebraska basketball has one of those guys where you can really give him the basketball and he can go and score maybe 1.5 if you count Jawan Gary on a good day. But with this team, with how much effort that they have to put in, especially early in the season, to get themselves to where they were at, it just seems like because they have to play at such a high clip of energy that maybe they are slowing down. Maybe this is a team that is regressing to the mean because they were playing absolutely out of their gourd and now the gas tank is up. I don't really know. And I don't think we're really going to know why there's a lack of effort or a visual lack of effort on this team until someone comes out and says it or until end of the season. But regardless of the fact, it is noticeable and it is so out of character for what we've seen this team be for the last 2 years. Because this team, especially when you mention back to the Bandamel injury and the Gary injury, since that moment, the culture has been great. You haven't had to question the culture. You haven't had to question the effort. You haven't had to say, why isn't this team playing hard? Because that's what this team was built off of. Good defense and hard play. And now we're sitting here in a 5-game losing streak, looking around saying, what the heck happened? And it's in part, because of the effort and the lack of effort that they're bringing to the court.
And that's why Fred Hoiberg keeps getting to the post game and saying it was toughness.
But he's saying the same things over and over again.
Well, yeah, no. I know, but
the same message out.
I know how many times does a coach need to say it before a player goes, "Yeah, I am going to dive for that 50-50 ball."
Well, it's not a 50-50 ball anymore.
But now it's a 75-25 ball.
Yeah, because
you're not doing it.
If it was 50-50, you'd be winning 50% of them. But they're not. They're getting out hustled. They're getting outplayed.
They're losing the coin flip way too much.
USC was one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the country. They end up. I just hit my mic.
That's all right. It means you care. You're passionate about this.
One of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the country. They grabbed 12 boards and what seemed like the most
12 offensive boards.
Yeah, 12 offensive boards in the most opportune times for them in a close game.
And still,
in a game that you have to win.
On the other side of that, they only turned that into 9-second chance points, and Nebraska had 9-second chance points as well with only 8 offensive rebounds.
It seemed like at times the only people who really were like, this is a must win, were the people in the stands who were cheering for it to happen.
I agree with that.
And that is a problem. You cannot go to the huddle with 43 seconds left, and then your next shot attempt is at 18 seconds left. In your last possession, Bryce Williams cannot be moseying up the court. You're down 3. There's 14 seconds left. You still can go to the basket, maybe get an and one. If you don't, you foul. No, he's moseying up the court, like back for this, that, like it's the NBA. Like he's going to get an open 3.
I could do just like an entire hour on the last minute of that game and whatever the strategy is supposed to be, because there hasn't been a strategy for this team in the last minute of games.
All right, we're going to get to our boy Andrew, and then we're going to get to a break here. Drew.
Hey, what's up?
How are you? Rub it in. Take the victory lap, Andrew. Do it for me, buddy.
I'm not here to rub it in.
Okay.
But I'm here to say, why is Nebraska basketball not happy, but all right with their coach? Why are they?
Nebraska
if
basketball.
you look at his record,
yeah.
If you look at his record and all that, it's terrible.
75 and 101 at Nebraska.
Yeah. So Andrew, I think it comes down to this, and I think it's a great question here. I'll keep you on the line too if you want to say anything else. What it boils down to is that Fred Hoiberg in the first 3 years, I mean, the teams were absolutely terrible. They did not win games. They were on the bottom of the Big Ten consistently during that time. But we've been referring to it a lot, Andrew, that Bandamel Gary year where it seemed like the culture flipped and they went on that massive run to end the year. I think how many they won six in a row or 6 or 7 or something like that in the Big Ten. Absolutely turned their season around. Then you lead into last year where they make the NCAA tournament. It seemed like there was a culture shift, Andrew, and that this team was and this program was trending in the right direction. Why no one, despite the fact that them being 75 and 101, wanted to fire the guy.
But if you go on their message boards and stuff, they're like, it would be silly to fire Hoiberg.
Sure.
I'm telling you, if Creighton, let's use Creighton as an example.
Yeah.
Just since they're both in the same area. If they had a couple bad seasons, people would be talking. And I don't care if it's Mac.
Yeah.
But they'd be
I think
saying,
that's an
"What's
unfair
going on?"
comparison, Andrew, though, because there definitely are different bars in terms of that. And Hoiberg definitely did inherit a program at a much different time than McDermott just randomly out of nowhere, Creighton having losing seasons. We appreciate the call, though. It was a good call by Andrew. I get what he's saying. I mean, it's like you look at the resume, blank space. You could, I mean, someone on the outside could look at that and look at where Nebraska's at and who's not been in tune with the program here and be like, oh, I wonder if Hoiberg's going to get fired.
Well, and for Nebraska, it's like you got to look at what are the expectations at Nebraska. What has Nebraska historically done? It's never won an NCAA tournament game. That's like the most talked about fact. It like here in the state when it comes to basketball. If Creighton were to go the next 7 years and not make it to the second weekend, that's an issue for Creighton.
Yeah.
Nebraska men's basketball, if you go the next 7 years and you miss the Big Ten tournament half the time, that's a giant issue. That's just where the program is. But there is a difference in the first couple years of Fred Hoiberg and the last couple years of Fred Hoiberg. But I will say this, there were people in those stands. Like, I heard people yell, fire Fred Hoiberg. I've seen people on social media and on message boards. I'm not saying that's where I am, but there are plenty of people that if things go wrong, they're immediately to the fire train. There are people that after Nebraska volleyball lost in the Final Four said, you got to fire John Cook. He doesn't have it anymore.
That's crazy.
Yes, there are crazy people out there. I like whatever Husker sanity message board Andrew has seen, because I need a lot more of that than the places that I hang out.
All righty. Well, that was our Nebraska ball talk, and we're sure we're going to dive into more of it. We'll probably end up previewing that Wisconsin game. We got a great lineup for you today. The lineup is brought to you by the rooferys at John Higgins and Weatherguard. And be sure to check out the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. Follow us at 1620thezone.com. You can follow me at Matt McMedia, MattMcMedia. You can follow Caleb at
Caleb Henry.
And if you want to get in touch with us, don't forget to email the 1620 The Zone inbox, which is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableBank.com. We got a lot on the lineup for this final penultimate Friday football fiesta. AFC Championship game coming up. We got Creighton basketball, men and women. Omaha men's basketball is turning it up. We got other little sport things. Hey, Ichiro Suzuki said something very interesting in his Hall of Fame speech. We'll dive into that as well. Got a lot coming up for you on this Friday. Thank you for listening so far. You're listening to Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone.
For the Jays, the Huskers, and even you Jayskers, we are 1620 The Zone.
Host is roasting every morning. Host is roasting every day.
How does Host Coffee provide the best coffee for your workplace? By finding the richest and most robust coffee beans from all around the world and bringing them to our Nebraska roastery, where your coffee is roasted fresh and delivered straight to you.
Proudly serving Nebraska.
103 yards for freshman Calvin Jones here today. Nebraska, since falling behind by 2 touchdowns, dominating, but they still trail it by a point. Jones again, big hole on the left. Jones for the end zone. Nebraska leads for the first time.
Listen to that audio from. What is it?
This is from the ABC broadcast, and this will be from the ESPN
Calvin
broadcast
Jones,
here in 92.
beginning of the second quarter. Huskers in their 8 set. First time we've seen this. 2 flankers, 2 tight ends. Cal Jones, the lone setback from the 47 of CU. Frazier takes the snap, gives it on a counter play. Jones runs behind the blocker, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 15. He's gone. Touchdown. Touchdown. Touchdown.
That would be KP.
Well,
first one was against Oklahoma 1991, Brent Musburger on ABC, but then the great
it definitely
KP.
seems like time has just flown by.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for cutting that up, Jimmy. That was audio from Nebraska running back Calvin Jones, who unfortunately passed away yesterday. Jones was a part of the famous We-Backs teams of the early 90s with Nebraska Cornhuskers, a not only just Husker athletics legend, but an Omaha high school legend as well. A very, very unfortunate passing. The 2004 Nebraska Football Hall of Fame inductee and just an absolute legend, not only within the Huskers, but Omaha as well. And
Super Bowl champion.
Super Bowl champion, yes. Yes, with the Green Bay Packers. And so we want to give our deepest thoughts, prayers, and condolences to Jones and Jones's family. It just super unfortunate. It seems like
too young.
Just life's short, man. Life's
54.
Too young.
Too young. Way too young, and an incredibly unfortunate circumstance where it was reported that he was just in his house and a carbon monoxide leak, and authorities were called, and he was unfortunately found a passed in his home. And so once again, we want to express our deepest condolences to a not only just Husker athletics legend, but a Omaha legend as well, and thoughts and prayers to his family. And just it's just sad, man, when you just start thinking. I know there's so many people who have so many great memories about Calvin Jones and the impact that he made on the football field, and just stories have just been flooding out, not only just him on the field, but him off the field as well, and the impacts that he's made. And it's just it's just one of those things where you kind of just get hit in the face by life sometimes, and you're reminded that this thing that we call life is incredibly fragile, and no days are promised, and for it to happen in the manner in which it did, and just kind of seamlessly, he was just in his basement, and then that leak occurred. It's just so incredibly sad.
Well, just earlier this week, one of the other writers for Husker Max, and we've got a number of things up on him at huskermax.com on the passing, but also highlights and just a lot of other stories and everything. But when it comes to Calvin Jones, we were just having a conversation on social media, me and a couple guys, specifically Dave Feit, who writes for Husker Max. And the conversation came up because there was a post about this year's Ohio State running back duo and them potentially being the best college running back duo of all time.
Yeah, no.
With Quinshon Judkins
and Travion
Henderson. And what they were able to do, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but they don't do their research.
Recency bias is great. First of all, my first instinct was to go to those mid-2000s USC backfields.
Yeah, Lendell White and Reggie Bush.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but
so good. Thunder and lightning.
If you go back a little bit further for Nebraska, you go to the Wee-Backs. You go to 91.
Absolutely.
And you go to Derek Brown with 1,339 yards, 14 touchdowns. Calvin Jones, 900 yards, 14 touchdowns. That was in 11 games, guys.
Yeah.
And those stats, by the way, those total yards, and then those touchdowns come up just a hair shy. That's comparing to Ohio State's 16 games.
I was going to say, do 16 with those guys.
It's stupid what they would have been able to do and how good they were and how, one, freak athletic, but just good football players those guys were, and especially Calvin Jones and everything he was able to do from Omaha Central. There were several years in a row that Tom Osborne's teams either had a starting running back or someone getting significant snaps from Omaha Central in that backfield. And Jones, what he was able to do in high school, obviously in football, he was a gold medal sprinter in track.
Yeah, you talk about his college stats. His high school stats are even more.
Yeah, it's insane what he was able to do.
In a single game, he ran for 367 yards. In a single season, he ran for 2,100 yards. In a career, he ran for nearly 4,000 yards. I mean, he is one of the greatest Omaha high school football athletes ever. He is,
which says something because there's been some dudes come through here, and then go and have a great career at Nebraska, and then go have a tremendous NFL career and win a Super Bowl. And then did he come back and play for the Beef also? I thought I'd read he'd come back and play for the Omaha Beef.
I do not know. I'm unaware of whether or not he did that. But still, regardless of it, in 1992, Big 8 Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, and like I said, it's one of those sad situations where I know there are so many people who are across the state who are listening to this show who may be on a radio show right now who are talking about Calvin Jones and the impact that he made on just their childhoods or their lives or just watching them play. I mean, sports has a profound effect on people. And when you see great players like Jones play, it hits you in a different way, right? And that's the beauty about sports, right? We can watch people that we've never talked to, that we've never met, that we don't know really who they are as a person, but they come and they play a sport and we watch them play and we're so affected by them that we relate to them and we associate so many great memories with them. And so to see a guy like Calvin Jones pass away and absolute legend is incredibly sad.
And for you and me, like, in all honesty, that's a little bit before our time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is where he was. So one of the things that comes up with all of this is that we do get to watch a lot of the highlights and talk to the people that did experience it and have a lot more of those memories.
Hey, one of our favorite guys here who's been incredibly helpful for me when I'm coming to Omaha, it's old man Doug. Doug, how are you, my man?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, good. Hey, before we start,
sure.
I have to get Caleb's take. Is a cheese pizza a cheese pizza?
Is what?
Is a cheese
a
pizza?
Cheese pizza a cheese pizza wherever you go? Is it just the same, or is there?
Is cheese pizza, does it taste the same wherever you go?
Can it be your favorite, or is it like, cheese pizza's cheese pizza?
I mean, yeah, if you're 3 years old, sure.
And we're back.
Thank
you, Doug.
All right. Attaboy, Doug. Doug, we got to get out here in a couple minutes. Doug, what do you got for me?
Well, Calvin Jones was kind of one of the first players in Nebraska. Of course, I'm old enough to remember him.
Sure.
That went pro early.
Okay.
He would have won the Heisman Trophy had he been healthy the next year.
Yeah.
I actually thought he was quite a bit better than Derek Brown.
Okay.
And if you watch on YouTube the Colorado 92 game on Halloween where he just kept running and running, he took his helmet off. Of course, that's a penalty now.
Yeah.
He was a hell of a running back, and I would say the best we-back combination was, and it could have been the three-back back when Amon Green was there, and Lawrence Phillips had his problems. But if you take the best two running backs at one time would, in my mind, be Amon Green and Lawrence Phillips.
Lawrence Phillips, and you had David Benning there as well.
Oh, you had and Calvin Childs from North, and they had a Sims. I mean, they literally were 5 deep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's and Doug, it always comes back to this conversation about Nebraska now, right? With them unable to get that kind of bell cow, and them unable to get those power running backs. And where does it dawn from? It dawns from that time. It dawns from Derek Brown and Calvin Jones and Phillips and Amon Green and like the dominance they had during that time. It's a great point.
Okay, well, you guys have a good weekend. And Caleb, it's okay to talk about Creighton.
Okay, yep, I'm getting better at it.
Our fans don't leave early because generally we're winning at home. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, Doug. That's a good point. Thanks for calling in, boss. You're the man. Old man, Doug.
That's because the Creighton fans have drivers.
Yeah. Old man Doug, never a
Thanks,
dull
Doug.
moment with Doug. But
Well
Doug's
done,
the best.
Caleb.
All righty,
Just
we got a
kinda
good
slipped
show
it
coming up for you. Brett Ciancia is going to be here at 7:30. Mike Schaefer at 9, and Matt Verel will round it out at 9:20. We got a couple hours left here on this Friday football fiesta. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone. There's something special happening in Omaha. The Mavericks, 6-0 in the Summit League. They beat the previously undefeated 5-0 St. Thomas Tommies last night. Incredible game. Markel Sutton, who didn't play a lot in the first half because he got into foul trouble, goes ahead, plays every minute of the second half for the Mavericks. They end up pulling out the victory. I mean, watching yesterday's game and being in attendance, this is a real team.
Nice crowd.
I mean, it was a great crowd.
I saw a picture.
It was a really
from
great
Mr.
crowd.
Bigelow.
There was a lot of people there. It got really loud. It was a passionate fan base, and I think that as this Mavericks team continues to win and continues to go on the run that they're on, I don't think that's going to be out of the norm for Baxter Arena, which is absolutely incredible for that program and that school. I mean, this is a team that, you know, Lance Waddles, Tony Osborne, Markel Sutton, Cam Thomas, J.J. White. It is a team that it's one of those things where if you were just watching the game, you couldn't tell that they were in the Summit League. You know, it's just they just play in a fluidity. They play as a team. They're athletic. Cam Thomas and Markel Sutton are long. They're big if they're athletic. Right now, they're projected to be a 16 seed. I do want to mention last year, South Dakota State, they won the Summit League. They were a 15 seed. So real possibility that they could end up being a 15 seed. But right now, I think most of the projections have them ending up in Dayton. Currently, I mean, by far, best story in Nebraska in terms of sports. You go to the other side over to Lincoln.
Well, real quick, though, first.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's that awful of a thing to be the 16 because you're playing another 16.
So you can get a win.
You know, like there's a really good chance to put that into the history of your program.
Oh, you're saying it's a good thing to play another 16 in the play-in in
yes,
order to
then
get
you
an
get
NCAA tournament
yes,
victory.
and you carry a little bit momentum into 2 days later when you would play a 1 seed.
Sure.
And 1 seeds are not undefeated all time anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. People forget. People
forget.
So I would almost, and obviously the higher the seed, and then you start going historically, okay, well, this Omaha team was this seed. This Omaha team was this seed. At that point, I don't care if you're a 16, if you go beat another 16,
Sure.
and then you can say, we have an NCAA tournament win, and then that extends to Omaha fans, all of you. What was it? Mav Jays or Blue Ricks?
Mavericks, Blue Ricks.
Blue, whatever it is.
I didn't know it was a thing.
You can all say, we have wins in the NCAA tournament, and Lincoln team doesn't.
I see what you're getting.
Like you can expand it
It's
that
always,
far.
It's always
but,
that's always the play. It's never about
but
actual
in a bubble.
historic.
But no.
No. This is actually great for the basketball program and great for the school. It's never about that.
Do I want to listen to that talking point?
Vector, will Fred even be back next year?
It's actually
No.
it's actually always about the Twitter arguments and
No, it's a little bit of
what
both.
group of fans can hold the
Because
feet
I don't
want to
listen to that argument in Lincoln bubble, but in the bubble that is Omaha Mavericks men's basketball, that's a historic thing to have. And I hope that they continue to produce the way they have produced. They have that opportunity at the end of the season.
And they're undefeated since you moved here, right, Matt?
They are.
McMaster's Mavericks.
McMaster's. Well, they're
Yes!
undefeated.
Good
since,
luck charm, Matt McMaster.
Hey, Tony Osborne said it. They're undefeated
Old Tony,
since I've moved to. By the way, Tony is like the opposite of Italian.
I know, but
Missouri.
But I go very Sopranos when
No,
it's about whether or not you are going to let him make those free throws or not.
But since I've moved, since I started working
$1
here,
bill.
since I started working here, they have lost. They lost to Iowa State,
And morale's up.
who I still think I'm still picking Iowa State to win the national championship. I don't care that they lost to West Virginia.
Many teams will.
Many teams will lose to West Virginia. West Virginia has a really good basketball team, even though they did lose to Arizona State the other day. That was a tough loss for the Mountaineers. Regardless, not to get in a college basketball tangent there, but it's a good team. It's a team that is athletic, a team that it plays together. They play good defense. St. Thomas was one of the best three-point shooting teams in the Summit League heading into that game. They absolutely shut them down, especially in that first half run. They ran them off to the 3-point line. St. Thomas hit a couple threes at the end of the game, but by that time it was a little too late. Sutton, who is Markel Sutton. Now, I understand that we're talking different levels here. There's a big gap between the Summit League to the Big East and the Big Ten, but in just terms in where they're at, Markel Sutton, I think, is the best closer in basketball for Nebraska right now, in Nebraska basketball, period, as a state. I'm not saying that he's better than Ashworth or Kalkbrenner or Bryce Williams or anything
over
like
the course of 40 minutes and the way they would be draft graded or anything like that.
Nothing like that. I'm just saying for where he's at, for what the team is playing, for where his team is competing, he's closed out games at a very high level, and that's exactly what you need when you're going to be 6-0 in the Summit League. And so it's a historic season. We're hoping that it continues. Love having those guys here on the show. We've had Chris Crutchfield on the show in the last week. We've had Tony Osborne on the show in the last week. And so they're going to Oklahoma to take on the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles, who are 1-5, 1-6 in the Summit League. Creighton.
And I think real quick on Omaha, it's a fantastic opportunity for them as a program, obviously the rest of this season.
Yeah.
But as you get into the ever-changing landscape of collegiate athletics, and for a team like Omaha in the Summit League and knowing where there are roster limits coming and there's revenue sharing coming and the transfer portal and NIL and all these different things, for Omaha to carve out this niche in the Summit League and go, hey, look, we have a really, really good basketball program right here and playing for an NCAA tournament. This is an opportunity for you to come do this. And we know that there have been players that you come to go to a Summit League team, you put together 2-3 good years, and maybe you transfer somewhere. I don't want that to always be the case, but if you can prove that you're a program that can go and have success and have success for those players and potentially set them up for success if they do want to go somewhere else, I don't want it to just be a feeder system to other programs. But hey, if it works and you're able to have success while doing it, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world either. First things first, go have success with what you have.
We're talking about a program that transitioned from Division II into Division I in the 2011.
Yeah, just like a decade
season,
ago. Yeah,
who they weren't even available or qualified to make it to the NCAA tournament until 2016. And now we're talking about
I know what those transitions are like.
Yeah.
The school I was at was transitioning while I was there. It sucks.
Transitioning.
It is
hard.
not fun.
It is difficult. I mean, the amount of more money and more resources and times and just the level of play from D2 to D1, it is not an easy thing to do. And funny enough,
and you're not able to compete for championships during that time.
And funny enough, they played a team yesterday in St. Thomas who still is undergoing that transition. St. Thomas is not allowed to make the NCAA tournament this year. I believe it's their last year. Gary would know better.
Well, and
pretty sure it's their last year of not being able to make the NCAA tournament. St. Thomas, really good program. They're 5-1. I mean, it's going to be a team that Omaha's going to have to encounter at least one more time on their road to Summit League glory and hopefully NCAA tournament glory. Then let's just go from Exarban Village all the way down to downtown where the Creighton Blue Jays
hit a couple potholes and you're there.
Yep. Hey, look at me, by the way, knowing Omaha geography.
Omaha boy. Yeah.
Look at that.
Mayor McMaster.
Not a lot of people thought that in
Metro Matt.
Metro Matt. That's what they call him. Metro Matt. Not a lot.
That was actually pretty damn
Not
good.
a lot of people like this guy. But
didn't know the names. Metro Matt.
Metro Matt knows the names. Exarban Village. My camera's not on. Why did that happen?
We're gonna rename
Jimmy?
it America Village.
America Village. Who would have thought? 3 weeks. 3 weeks took me to know place to place. We'll go from Exarban to downtown. The Creighton Blue Jays. It's so tough because it's like Seton Hall sucks.
Many are saying.
Seton Hall.
I can hear Bishop saying it right now in the pregame show.
I'm sorry, guys.
Anyway, good breakdown.
Seton Hall sucks. We'll be back with a tip right after this on the Zone.
They're terrible. I mean, they are not this is not a good basketball team.
There's your scouting report from Coach McMaster. Jeez. We'll be back with the opening tip-off right after this.
I'm sorry. I cracked myself up, man. I'm a funny.
You're a funny guy.
I'm a funny guy. Seton Hall, they're 6-13. They are losers of their last 4. Their last win came against DePaul, which I think is a blanket statement that everyone in the Big East, every bad team in the Big East can say. Can just blanket that. Yeah, they're terrible. Their last win was against DePaul, though. That's kind of where the Blue Demons are.
Who did DePaul beat, though?
They beat Georgetown.
Yeah, that's right.
And they went into overtime against Providence and Marquette. DePaul was terrible against Creighton. That's the one thing, though. DePaul was terrible against. No, DePaul's been competitive this year. They've been better than usual. Chris Holtman has actually gotten that team ahead of schedule, which means that they won a Big East game.
Sorry,
I mean, I think
I've
that was
only
the
been
goal.
following Northwestern hoops more since you came here. So
Well,
I'm not too
Northwestern
well
hoops,
versed
man.
on.
You see that. We get one Tyberry game a year. We cashed it out at home against Indiana and sent Mike Woodson probably to LinkedIn.
Is that game? No, that's at home. Because
Creighton Seton Hall.
Yeah.
So Seton Hall. So tomorrow Creighton takes on Seton
Right.
Hall. That game is at 12:30. What is the spread for that game?
Seton Hall, by the way, 1-5 on the
guess the
road
Jays are
this
favored.
year.
I do not have the spread for that game, but Seton Hall had 20 turnovers in 30 minutes against Marquette. That's
Impressive.
all you need to know. All I was saying is that it's sad that Seton Hall sucks because I would love to take a lot of time here to really talk about Creighton basketball and break down the game in a manner in which people could be more educated about it. And it's the pink out game tomorrow.
That's the most important thing.
Most important thing, the pink out game. It's a great event. So happy that here at 1620 The Zone, we've been able to ally ourselves with that event. Connor Happer will be at the pregame, right? 11 o'clock, 11:30.
I have no idea that nobody tells me anything.
I thought we were promoting that he was somewhere.
No, what we're promoting is that they are at the Hope Lodge today doing their shows live from
That's
10 to
what it
6.
is. They're 10 to 6.
So USC is there, so you can go hang out with Connor and Josh and
there you go.
Pitch in and for a great cause. And then USC at 2 to 6, and you can come have your picture taken with Nick and Josh and sit on their lap.
And we are giving out tickets today to the Creighton game, right?
We're giving tickets to the Creighton women's game.
Creighton women's game. They play at 4:30 against UConn. So we'll be doing that giveaway at 8 o'clock. So at 8 o'clock, we will be giving away Creighton women's basketball tickets.
And I'll remind you then they're physical tickets. So if you win them, you have to pick them up by 5 today.
Okay.
I don't have the spread for the Creighton Seton Hall game, but I do have ESPN's matchup predictor.
Yeah, give it to me.
They got the Cowboys and LeBron.
93.3%.
That's good.
93.3% Creighton wins.
It's good grade.
We really need, we don't really need
Does that feel low?
You know the keys, look.
Are the Jays not getting any respect from ESPN?
No respect.
Creighton really is in a tough stretch right now. And what I mean by that is people are like, Creighton's in a tough stretch. What the hell are you talking about? They're playing Seton Hall, who's terrible, Xavier, who's not that good, Villanova, who's meh, Providence, who they've already beaten by 20. Granted, they're going to have to go on the road and play them in Providence. But at the same time, Providence is not good. They're under 500 as well. And you're like, well, they play for either below average or really bad teams. How are they in a tough stretch? Well, they're in a tough stretch because immediately after they play Providence on Wednesday, February 5th, they then play number 10 Marquette on February 8th, number 19 UConn on February 11th, and number 20 St. John's on February 16th. Just from here to here, so quick. I've never seen a basketball team go from 0 to 100 in a schedule like Creighton will do over the next 3 weeks. They will play like near bottom of the barrel teams. And by the way, they've already played DePaul before Seton Hall. So their last 5 games will be bottom of the barrel, terrible Big East teams. And then immediately they will have to play the class of the conference, which will go a long way and not only securing themselves as an NCAA tournament bid, but actually giving themselves a favorable seating.
Yeah. Well, and then that's one of the things about the Big East the last few years, because it was just a 3-bid league last year.
Yeah.
But they were all top 3 seats.
Yes.
You know, so as a whole, as a conference, the Big East is very, very good, but it is very much led by the top, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah, and the bottom has gotten a little bit better. Like, DePaul has been giving teams actual games this year as opposed to just rolling over and over again. At the same time, though, yeah, you're still right. I mean,
but you got to win those games, even if they're on the bottom. They're the bottom half of the Big East, and that's one of the things that I struggle with covering like the Big Ten is that you're like, oh yeah, this team should win, and then they lose on the road. You're like, well, that team only has 2 conference wins, but there is something about home cooking in the Big Ten that, well, and actually that's a lot of different leagues too, some home cooking. But
let's look at bracket matrix here for a second.
But for Creighton here, Like, you have to win these games. You don't get to slip up in them, and that's its own kind of pressure.
So
before you take on the big dogs,
who do you think is the highest projected seed in this current bracket matrix in the Big Ten?
Highest projected seed right now?
Yes.
Illinois.
No. Try again.
Well, they just lost to
Michigan State.
Michigan State. Okay.
They're a 3 seed.
Who beat Nebraska by like 30.
So here's what I'm sitting here, and this kind of just dawned upon me. And I wonder if this will be a trend. And maybe it's just because maybe the top teams of the Big Ten aren't all that great, or maybe they're not as advertised, or so on and so forth. But you now have a plethora of ranked teams in the Big Ten currently. You have Illinois, you have Michigan State, you have Oregon, you have Michigan, you have
Wisconsin.
You have I'm missing one more.
UCLA fell out, right?
Yeah, UCLA is out. I'm going to go all the way back to Wednesday now to look at the standings of the Big Ten. So you have Michigan State, Purdue. That's who we forgot.
Purdue.
Forgot Purdue. So you have all those teams. So you have 1, 2, 3.
Many do.
Forgettable Purdue.
You have 6 ranked teams in the Big Ten. That means 33% of the Big Ten is ranked. That means, and then on top of that, you still have quality teams that are in the Big Ten that are going to be competing to make the tournament. Northwestern, Nebraska, Indiana, Iowa will be in the conversation. UCLA very much so in the conversation to make the NCAA tournament. Like, you have other teams that aren't ranked that are still good basketball teams that are going to be competing in the Big Ten. I feel like almost as if with these 18 teams, with the introduction of the West Coast teams into the Big Ten, that it's like going to be nearly impossible for the Big Ten year in, year out to get a 1 seed. Just because
they're going to beat each other
they're
up
going
so
to
much.
eat each other alive all the time.
Well, and that's one of the things that has been a conversation pre-expansion was, how could you have these Big Ten teams that would be a 1 seed or would be a top 3 seed, but just could not win a national championship?
Yeah.
And some of it was, well, they beat up on each other for 20 games and were a little bit worn out by the time the tournament comes around. Like, that's a real thing that you see. That's what the SEC talks about in football. Well, they beat each other up over their 8-game league schedule. And I think when you look at, like, when you compare these two leagues, because those are the 2 biggest leagues for
SEC. The SEC cleaning up right now. I mean, the SEC is going to have
but just talking Big East and talking Big Ten, the two that like really we cover here in the state.
Oh, sure,
because of Creighton and the University of Nebraska. The Big Ten is going to have twice as many, if not more, NCAA tournament teams than the Big East. The Big East, though, those 4 teams, because I think the Big East is going to get 4 in, those 4 teams will have a higher average seed than the Big Ten's top 4 seeds. Like that's just what it's going to be.
Yeah.
The Big Ten is going to have more in there, but they're going to be kind of middle of the pack in the seeds.
I think that's more so. I mean, so currently, if we're looking at the top Big East team right now, that is projected in bracket matrix in the big in this bracket matrix NCAA tournament is Marquette. They're a 2 seed, so they do. So Marquette is 2. Michigan State is 3. Then you'll have to go all the way down to the 6 seed for Connecticut. 7 seed is St. John's, and then currently right now Creighton is at 9. So I think year in and year out you'll probably get 2, 3, 4 from the Big East, because that's how it's been. Now credit to Rick Pitino and St. John's, they've done an incredible job turning around that program, and they're a 7 seed, and so now it's going to be a 4 bid league more than likely just because of their emergence.
Good, get that league money.
But it's
and
just
grow
one
it.
of those things. It's like it's incredible to me what the SEC is doing with how good they've been, and that mainly came from the non-con. I mean, they dominated in the non-con and had so many different non-conference teams win massive games. I mean, Tennessee beat Illinois. Alabama had beaten Creighton. I mean, they really cleaned up in those tournaments, and so they've given themselves the benefit of the doubt when it comes to eating each other alive, because you know that, well, these teams are eating each other alive, but they also ate everybody else alive earlier in the year in the non-con. And so that's kind of why they're going to end up being like an 11-bid league or something ridiculous like that. Literally.
That's what expansion has done.
Let me read you this. These are the 8 teams by conference in bracket matrix right now. Okay. The top 8 teams. So the 1 seeds and the 2 seeds by conference in bracket matrix. SEC, ACC, Big 12, SEC, 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 Big East. Auburn, number 1 overall seed. Alabama, 4th 1 seed. Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky, all SEC, all the first, second, and third second seeds.
Yeah.
And then you'll go down, not too far away from then is Texas A&M and Mississippi State, who are 4 seeds. Then Mississippi, who's going to be a 5 seed. Then Missouri, who's a 7 seed. Then Georgia, who's an 8 seed. Then Oklahoma, who's a 9 seed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous what the SEC is doing. And if you want to, probably a great bet to make would be the winner of the. Can you make NCAA tournament national championship bets based on conference? Can you bet the conference?
I'm sure you can bet everything. I mean, you could always.
That would be a good bet to
you
make.
could find someone.
I wonder what the odds.
The Smails kid picks his nose.
Wouldn't that be great if you could bet that, and then like it would really give you an outlook of like who they think the best leagues in college basketball are, if like dependent on the odds of.
Well, it would probably be weighted on like who the teams are.
I would bet the SEC. I would bet the SEC is going to win the NCAA tournament this year.
Can you find this out at your casino that you go to?
You mean Warhorse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think UConn's going to run it back?
Back to back. Hey, don't turn your back on me.
They got the most famous coach.
I'm the best effing coach in the country.
Yeah.
Don't turn your back. Don't turn your back on me. Don't turn your back on me.
So dumb.
Don't turn your back on us here at 1620 The Zone. It's Gary and Matt. We got Brett Ciancia
beautifully
coming up here. Don't go anywhere. We got Mike Schaefer coming up at 9. Matt Verel coming at 9:20. We haven't even previewed the biggest games of the weekend. Bills versus Chiefs. Commanders versus Eagles.
Everyone against the refs.
Everybody against the refs. Got a lot coming up. Ichiro wants to have a drink with somebody. You want to guess who that is?
Me.
Oh, I would love to have a drink with Ichiro. You're listening here, Gary Matt at 1620 The Zone.
Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your ticks during the playoffs. Which players are going off and which ones are ice cold? With over 5 million happy players, $2 billion, One Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. You can create entries with all football picks or mix and match across your other favorite sports. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep writing with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. And every dog deserves a second chance. With Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose. This week on Underdog, I am looking at both conference championship games. I want both winners just as much as America wants the Buffalo Bills to win. Underdog is the best place to play Pick'em. Download the app, sign up with promo code ZONE, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code ZONE. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
It is the sad reality that we are in the penultimate Football Friday, and the penultimate Football Friday because the NFL is still going on, but unfortunately for everybody, and especially our friend, our expert, our dear Brett Ciancia, the college football season is over. Brett, how you doing?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, always a bittersweet ending to the year. You get to crown a national champ, but then got to put college football away for 8 months. So it's a long off season. But with what I do, I get started right on the next season because I do the annual season preview magazine.
Heck yeah.
I'm already hard at work for 2025, and the show must go on.
Brett Ciancia, publisher of Pick Six Previews. I will tell you something right now. The guy sitting next to me, so no Gary in today, Brett. It's Caleb Henry, but Caleb is the one who got me on the Pick Six Preview book. You will find no better book to get yourself started for the college football season. I've been ordering it every year for the last 3 years. How many years are you on? Were you 3 or 4 years in a row now?
Well, since I moved to Nebraska, so that goes back to 2019.
2019, 5 years. I'm telling you, I'm not free promotion here for you, Brett. You got to get this book. So glad you're already starting on it. But we'll start.
But what the
here.
book needs, though,
what does it need?
Here's what you need to start including in there, Brett, because I haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Is the blue blood meters, because you went through and you did all the people's vote on who's still considered a blue blood. And man, the conversations of people who just don't get it, but then also seeing Nebraska passing with a low percentage. I'm like, okay, I get it. But it is a fun exercise to watch you do that on social media every off season.
Yeah, well, first off, Caleb, thanks for the promotion of the book. Thanks for getting Matt involved.
Absolutely.
And 2019, that was the original hard copy, so you got a collector's item there.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, so what we do once the season ends, we do some of these off-season polls and fun stats, and one of them that you mentioned is the Blue Blood poll. And I put it out there. I poll about 20 schools. I just ask very simply, is so-and-so school a blue blood in college football, yes or no? And 170,000 votes came in this year. And once again, like every year, it's the same 8 that get named the blue blood by overwhelming percentages. They're kind of entrenched with that label in the sport. It's, of course, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, USC. I think that's 8. I don't know if that's 8 in front of me, but those are the 8. Nebraska got 71% this year. And then there's a huge drop-off down to Penn State at 42%. So there's a huge gap. It's a clear 8. And I do the poll because 170,000 people, you get 170,000 different definitions of what a blue blood is. So just go for the law of large numbers here to see what the overall perception is of these programs. And there it is, the same 8 every year.
So, Brett, let's go more into this because it's such an interesting conversation. Like, why is it important, or why do people care so much if their program or the team that they root for is labeled a blue blood? What does being labeled a blue blood carry in terms of just college
Matt, because
football?
we've been losing and it's all we're holding on to.
No, not from a Nebraska perspective, just from a national perspective. Brett, what do you think? Why is it so important for teams to say, we're blue bloods?
I think it's a good question, and I didn't expect it to really blow up this much. It's just one of those off-season topics you sometimes see. For 170,000 votes. I think it got 2,000 likes. Like, people were really invested into this. They're really passionate. You can go on there and see the comments. They get a little nasty.
They do get nasty. I voted. They got nasty. They got weird. Yeah.
And I started to wonder the same question you had about why are people so obsessed with this? And you wouldn't see this in the NBA, for example. If you put out a poll about, are the Green Bay Packers a blue blood of the NFL? No one really cares. I think there's a different attachment to college football, and this shows that I think, one, you have a lot of people that went to the school. It's a different attachment than just cheering for an NFL team. You have other people that cheer for their hometown or their home state team. There's more pride there. It's more generational than a pro sports team. But then also, I think it ties back to recruiting, and just the national perception is important for your program to harness the best players in the country. In the NFL, it doesn't matter if you think the Packers are blue blood. They get 7 draft picks like everybody else. But in college football, I think some of this perception really matters because that's how you're selling your program to recruits or to boosters or to fill seats in the stadium. So, yeah, I think it's deeper than just what the surface level would say. I think it goes into the perception and then everyone's unique attachment to the program.
So, Brett, that was absolutely great and phenomenal in terms of that explanation. Let's go back to Ohio State, winners, national champions. What are you going to remember the 2024-2025 season by?
Well, I'll remember it as the first of the new era.
Yeah.
It really was different. And I know people, there's pros and cons to it. I think most people wanted the 12-team bracket. I was one of them that actually liked it at 4 or maybe 8 at the most. So I was a little bit against the playoff changing just because I thought it would change the sport. When you love something so much, you get scared of change.
Yeah.
Because better or worse, pros and cons, it will just be different. And it was different because a team with 2 losses won the national title, a team that was humbled on their home field against Michigan, their rival, on Thanksgiving Saturday. It was just the next day got announced to go back into the playoff bracket, got access again, and then went on a run. So it's tough because, they earned it on the field in December, January. But for 156 years of college football, you had to earn it the whole season. So it's just different. I liked the on-campus games. I thought those were really unique. I liked having the semifinals back-to-back nights. That Thursday, Friday was pretty awesome. So those are pros. Some cons and how long this thing stretched out. January 20th. You're into NFC AFC title games by then. So I think what I'll remember most to sum it up is just the structural changes of the postseason and how that impacted the feeling of the regular season games. So more on a big level there this time around.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve into getting used to the way those regular season games feel, Brett, because we put it got put into action because they're the 3 things at Ohio State that those are your only 3 goals on the year. Beat Michigan, win a Big Ten title, win a national title. They didn't even get the first 2, but still won a national title. So it becomes that, do you really care about you have to beat Michigan and then nothing else matters? Or is it okay now because you're able to still go win a national title?
Right. And then the thing was, those 3 were entrenched together. They were tied together because the other 150 years, if you lost to Michigan, that knocked out the other 2 steps. It was backwards. Now it's like that one doesn't actually play into the Big Ten race. It doesn't actually play into the playoff appearance. But before then, you had to have both. And how many years in the 70s, 80s, 90s did Michigan ruin an Ohio State undefeated season and block them from the Rose Bowl and block them from a national title in the polls? So that just was always tied inextricably. Now it's just like a different thing. And there's pros and cons. It was some playoff matchups were cool. You got to see Arizona State and Boise in there, but I think you're changing the fundamental. I love the 12-week playoff, all September, October, November. Yeah. I would want that Ohio State-Michigan upset to be a generational game for them and block them from the national title. I'd like to reward Oregon, who went 13-0, beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten, went undefeated. Now, of course, they lost their rematch, but 1-1, Ohio State gets to move on. So, it's just different. I think that the super conferences have some pros and cons as well. The scheduling within them was really bizarre. Without divisions, you saw Indiana play nobody, and you saw Ohio State have to play everybody. So it's just very strange. So, that's what I'll remember 2024. Just a lot of the structural changes, the mega conferences, the expanded bracket. But then, of course, Ohio State's run was impressive at the end. It was the best team of 2024 when you look back on it, talent-wise, coaching-wise. So it's fitting that now they do get to host the title.
And, locally, obviously there's Ohio State, Michigan, but locally, you had a lot of years of that Nebraska and Oklahoma back and forth. Whoever won that game got to win the Big 8 and then got to go play in whatever bowl to potentially win a national title. It's so different. Mm-hmm. It's so different, not just than 15 years ago, but especially 20 and 30 years ago. And Brett, for you, and as you watch that run by Ohio State at the end, what is there anything that we can take from this year going forward on what the future of college football is, considering that next year is going to be different too? Everything's going to reset. You're going to have roster limits, revenue sharing. We'll see what the Department of Education comes out with on what Title IX is supposed to do for that. You still have transfer portal, NIL, not as many. I guess Pac-12 and Mountain West, all the conference expansion that direction, but nothing really with the powers. There's still a lot of changes happening, and that was just year 1 of the college football playoffs expansion.
Yeah, well, as I was watching the Ohio State title run, it made me think of every other sport out there where it just matters now if you get hot in the postseason, if you have enough depth, if you get hot at the right time. I mean, it felt like a nice NFL playoff run, which is sad in a way because I liked how college football was unique. It was the only one that wasn't like that. So it was just different. And then, what did it prove going forward? I think it proved Ohio State's model, where it's you want to retain your upperclassmen that are maybe NFL bound, who are maybe second and third round draft potential. You want to hold them there with big NIL. So spending the NIL inwardly on your top talent is going to be more of a trend. I saw Illinois did that as well. And then sprinkle on some top transfers. So I think they proved their model. I think you're going to see a lot of teams do insane fundraising, like Ohio State did, $20 million for that roster. I think you're going to just up the ante everywhere else. That's just how it goes. What else? Revenue sharing. Yeah, there's so many topics that are even bigger than that.
So many.
Do an hour for those, but we'll see how those unfold. But strictly football-wise, I think it proved Ohio State's model.
I mean, you might have to put a page in your preview book about like all the problems in the NCAA. And
here's what's new this year.
Here's what's new this year. Here's everything that's going on. This is how this lawsuit affected this. This is how that lawsuit.
I was named
that.
in the Pac-12 Mountain West lawsuit.
Yeah,
by the way.
attaboy. Congratulations. That's a badge of honor right there.
Pretty cool.
So yeah, it is pretty cool. Actually,
it was super weird.
It's super weird. Hey, Brett, real quick. By the way, Brett Cianci, a publisher of Pick Six Previews, one of the best preview books, the best preview book. Getting ready for college football season. Season's over. He's already starting. I mean, always on the grind. But, Brett, let's talk about schedule. Let's talk about everybody's favorite thing, the academic schedule and the sports schedule, the transfer portal schedule, all this. I'm just going to ask you straight up. You think they get rid of Big Ten championship games or conference championship games?
So the football answer would be, I think, yes, but I think the money-wise, and really what drives all this is money, they're going to keep it as long as they can.
Yeah.
It's just another revenue source. It's a big-time matchup they'll get on TV. They sell the seats, the merch, the tickets. It's just money. I think that it defeats the purpose now with 12-team bracket, especially in a conference that's going to get multi-bids like the SEC and the Big Ten. Like, why would you throw Oregon and Penn State out there to play again, beat each other up, and then actually damage one of their resumes? And you saw SMU move down a couple spots when they lost their title game. So, yeah, it's just so much redundant. There's just so many rematches now with the big bracket. If we're going to stay at 12 and if the Big Ten and SEC remain this strong, I don't see the need for it. Maybe crown a regular season Big Ten champ like they used to do all the way before, 2010?
Yeah.
They always just had a regular season champ, and that's fine. I think by then you'll have an undefeated team like Oregon emerge, especially in a 9-game slate. You're playing 9 games, and you ask them to play a 10th and then go into a 4-round bracket. It's crazy. So, yeah, but money's going to speak, as always. Until they can't have it, they'll keep going with it.
So we had...
Well, you got to find somewhere to do the Dr. Pepper tuition toss. You got to find somewhere to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a staple of college football at this point. 22.1 million people watch Notre Dame versus Ohio State. It doesn't sound that low, but when you realize that it was the third lowest national championship game in the college football playoff era, you got to start thinking, how the heck did that happen? Considering the fact that if the NCAA had to pick, hey, between the brands of college football, who do you want playing in a national championship? I think some people would just go out and say, probably Notre Dame and Ohio State. Why do you think it was so low? And do you think it's more of an indictment on, or how much of an indictment is it on this schedule and the fact that we had to wait so long to compete against other football to watch this game happen?
Yeah, I think it's that last answer. I think obviously with their brands, those are two of the biggest brands out there. You either love them or hate them. You're going to watch them. Ohio State and Notre Dame, they have huge national fan bases. So I thought it would blow out the TV numbers like crazy.
Yeah.
There was also no dynasty fatigue. There was no Saban or Dabo fatigue. Those rematch years. This was two fresh faces in the national title game. So I was shocked. I think it comes back to the timing on the calendar because so I'm an Eagles season ticket holder, and by the time the Ohio State played their Final Four game until the title game, I went to 2 playoff games. It's like you forget that college football is happening. There was that Sunday wild card round, and then the divisional round happened, and then Monday night is the college football national title. I think now, obviously, I'm hyper focused on college football, but I think a lot of the population just got into NFL. It's 2 full playoff weeks away.
Yeah.
And then the Monday night thing. And, I just think people were tired of it. And they're into AFC, NFC title talk. And that's that. I think you got to wrap up the college football season earlier in January. It just feels like a different thing now.
Gosh, and playing on like every day of the week on the way to get there. You're past the rest of bowl season. You're most of the way into January. And like you guys are right. Like the NFL playoffs are going on. I love college football, but like my attention has started to turn as well to what the NFL is going to be. Brett, for you, as now it extends to the end of January before you can start working on 2025, Like what goes into all of this for you over the next several months?
Yeah, January is historically I wrap up the previous season, so I run all my numbers, my stats, my formulas, all that stuff you see on the sides of the pages, the graphics.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm working on now, just as games wrap up, and then in February we finally get to see a little bit of how the rosters shape up because you have the signing day, you have the NFL draft declaration day, and then you see who's coming back. You got a coordinator carousel still going, so I'm really far away from actually writing it. I still have a ton of research to go in. January is just the numbers, graphic stuff before we really see what the rosters look like. But then it's talking to coordinators, talking to head coaches, spring games, trying to watch every spring game I can, practice reports, and then finally the last portal deadline is after spring ball. Then I can really start writing and lock it in. So it's really a time crunch. It's really every day is used. So I just got to stay on schedule. But yeah, it's a short 6 months away.
Matt, this is where we see that terrible graph of how good Nebraska's recruiting has been.
Yeah,
where inverse with how well they've developed into pro prospects.
If you've followed me in Nebraska media, you know that I reference the development of the development graphic, the development staff from Pick Six Previews all the time. I mean, that is like the number one indictment on Nebraska football. So thank you for that, Brett.
Thank you.
We really, really appreciate that because we've seen it with our
we've
seen it with our own eyes. We just needed a number to really hammer it in, and you've provided that for us, and you've provided us so many great things. I want to thank you so much for coming on all year to 1620 The Zone and doing this. Publisher of the Pick Six Previews, Brett Ciancia. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a great season, and look forward to more Fridays with you guys.
Will do. All righty, Brett Ciancia. We got a lot to get to, man. We still have a lot to churn out here. We got the AFC. We have the NFC playoffs. We have Nebraska basketball going on the road, trying to turn their season around against Wisconsin. We have Creighton basketball playing tomorrow against Seton Hall at 12:30. We have Creighton women's basketball playing UConn and Paige Beckers at 4:30. We then have, what else do we have? We have a whole lot. We got
Maverick hockey. Did you get that?
Maverick hockey, St. Cloud State tonight. That'll be a massive game. Matt Verel will be on at 9. Mike Schaefer will be on at 8. Hey,
it's going to be in the 40s this weekend. You can lay out and get a tan.
Yes, you can go out and get a tan. We're going to have one more segment, but at 8 o'clock, we're giving away tickets to Creighton women's basketball when they take on UConn on Saturday. So stay in tune. Stay here. Matt and Gary here on 1620 The Zone. Do-do-do-do-do. Big weekend of sports.
That song's universal. Comes on at a
Oh,
bar.
absolutely. Absolutely.
We're all different ages, and yet we've all been there.
Big.
We all know.
Weekend of sports. We all know that song.
We all live vicariously through Matt now.
We all love a little.
Not wrong.
We all love a little bit of rock and roll.
Go ahead, Matt. Eat those extra onion rings. You know why? Because you can. Eat those extra fries. Have that extra slice.
I really
of pizza.
can. I've gained a lot of weight. I mean, Caleb saw me balloon up to 210 right in front of his eyes, and I've since slimmed down.
I haven't been 210 in a hot minute. So
I was working with Fat Matt for a little bit. I mean, I was
Fatty Matty. That's what we called him.
That's what we called him. I've since lost a lot of weight. Me and I've been grinding. Hey, great weekend of sports. If you like Big Ten basketball tonight, you got a great matchup. Number 21 Michigan goes to Mackey Arena. They're going to play Purdue. Purdue just recently had, I think it was 27 in a row. They had one at Mackey until Ohio State came in there. 15-0 run. Ends up closing out that game. Then you got a pretty big game, Penn State, Iowa. That'll do a lot for Bubble Talk. And then UCLA at Washington. That's Pac-12 basketball. I don't know if you're really
Pac-10 basketball.
Two of your longest home winning streaks in the nation were Nebraska and Purdue, and both ended this month.
That's great. That's a great call, actually.
Nebraska
then tomorrow,
Purdue.
more Big Ten basketball. Michigan State goes to Rutgers. Oregon goes to Minnesota. And then on the Big East side, not yours, but most people who are listening to this, because we are the home of Creighton Blue Jays. Creighton takes on Seton Hall at home, 12:30 on FS1. Georgetown plays Providence at 11:30. DePaul will take on Butler at 3. 7 o'clock, pretty decent matchup. UConn versus Xavier. UConn nearly got beat by Butler. I still can't believe Butler did not pull out that win. Danny Hurley did anything, scratch, claw, gnaw tooth, get out of there. They barely escape. At their home, it would have been 2 losses in a row at home for UConn if they had lost against Butler. So things are heating up in college basketball, man. I mean, things are getting. I mean, we're getting to the point where I'm telling you right now, more people my age are watching the sport, interested in the sport, talking about the sport. We're getting to the end of football in general. 2 massive games this week. Washington Commanders, Philadelphia Eagles. We'll talk about more of that later into the show, but Jaden Daniels has an opportunity to do something that I don't think anyone expected for him to do. Be a rookie and lead a Washington
Not
Commanders
Bears
team.
management.
Not Bears management, clearly. Philadelphia Eagles.
Just slip it in there for him.
It's got to be tough watching this playoff if you're a New York Giants fan. Just watching the Eagles off the back of Saquon Barkley, a guy who was on your team for so long.
Well, and a lot of your players in Saquon Barkley's box.
Yes. Yes.
Like good. That tells you management, hey, guess what? This is a guy who was not only well liked,
bless you,
and well
he was
respected,
the captain.
But those dudes still go and support him in a playoff run with someone else.
All right, we'll go to the Equitable Bank inbox here. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Doug emails in, Old Man Doug, who just called in.
Old Man,
earlier.
I like
So
Doug.
he's got a long. I love how Doug emails me. Doug emails me with a numbered out list, like an agenda. Okay,
that's what he does.
He's so organized, and then we cross off the agenda. I still have to.
What age do we get to that?
I already do that.
That's a flex.
But you've been old for a while.
That is true. So Doug,
that
I'm not
too.
going to get to all 7 questions.
You
here
sure
from
Matt
Doug.
didn't go to school with me?
But Doug asked Matt, have you ever been to a Creighton game in person at the Chai? Yes, I have. UNO success this year.
Yes, I have.
He goes, Caleb, what's your take on J-Skers? Real quick. What do you think about it?
Honestly, here's the real question, or the real answer. I have no issue with it.
Okay.
I have no issue with it because I grew up in central Nebraska. One of my classmates, his younger sister, is named Creighton because of that run in the early 2000s.
Nice.
I'll say this, though, as someone covering Nebraska, and I know it can poke people on social media, I love to get under people's skin with it. That part is fun. But me personally, I don't really care. Cheer for who you want to cheer for. If you want to be
watching good basketball.
If you want to be a Mav J, you want to be a Mav Sker, you want to be
Blue Rick,
a J, like whatever all these things
whatever
are.
you want to be.
Cheer for him.
Hey,
I like supporting here in Nebraska.
Doug actually has a great question that we might get into in a segment later into the show, but I know that he probably won't be listening after 8 o'clock.
He listens.
Joe, well, not after 8.
But he still listens.
Joey emails into the Equitable Bank inbox zone line, whatever we're calling that. Hey, guy, I got
the
that
computer.
The computer. I got that. Hey, Equitable Bank. We take banking personally.
This from the internet.
Iowa fans are the main ones that are mad at the Blue Blood combo because they hold their rivalry trophies in such high regard. How dare we actually talk about actual titles? I kid because I care. Not really.
So, yes, it's Iowa fans and
I love it.
Oregon fans.
I love it.
Because Oregon has been on a roll for the last 20 years.
Shout out Dana.
I'm talking about football.
Oh, well, still shout out Dana.
Yeah,
all the Danas.
Sure. Always shout out Dana.
Dana White, Dana Altman.
Dana College. But Oregon has no big or no national titles to show for it.
I know. They've been there in the dance.
It's like that's
Twitter
what it
has
is.
told me.
That's where that line is.
Always a bridesmaid, never the bride.
All-time wins, national champions, Heisman winners, total conference championships. That's why Nebraska's still in it with a bad 25 years.
I'll just say this. I love this email because it just strengthens the Iowa rivalry, and it's just so important, not only to Iowa, not only to Nebraska, but the Big Ten, that Iowa and Nebraska actually hate each other. Rivalries are what makes sports great. That's why we need to make sure that we keep doing it. I don't want them to shake their hands. I don't want them to shake their hands for eternity.
Germs.
Just keep it going. Just keep them getting more mad and mad and
Good.
mad. That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's all I want. And do you know what all I want to do is? All I want to do is give out Creighton Blue Jays women's basketball tickets for tomorrow's game against UConn and Paige Beckers. That's all I want to do. We'll do that at 8 o'clock. Coming up next, you're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. Is this a different version of Shout?
No, this is the version. This is the Buffalo Bills version.
Okay.
Been famous for 35 years.
We'll get to that in a second.
And how many Super Bowl wins?
0. They need to
Do
win
you know
one.
what song that I loved? I loved the I Want to Bang on the Drum All Day. I want to go on me.
The Packers
I
song.
wanna bang on the drum all. Yeah. But then I found out it was the Packers song. And now that is my least favorite song.
Look at him. Loyal
ever.
fan. Loyal.
Ever. Literally not a joke. I hear that song and I've been on the radio before and I've just turned off the radio.
Liked it till you learned.
I was in the back seat of a car one time and that song came on. And I go,
Get out of the car.
I go, no. I go, get it off. Get it off. My mom's like, why? My dad's like, that's a Packers song.
Oh, I thought there was a lady in there with her.
Okay.
Why? You thought I did that with my friends? Like I was a psycho?
Or a girl? Like, no, this is over. I'm going home watching SportsCenter.
No, if I was hanging out with a girl at 7 o'clock, there'd probably be a Cubs game on that I would go and watch, not SportsCenter.
That's a keeper, though. 7 o'clock. Yeah.
7 o'clock. You don't get a lot of those Cubs games. Speaking about baseball, are you excited for baseball? Baseball's gonna be good this year.
I am. It's next month. Do you want to give away tickets?
Yeah, let's give away tickets.
Yeah.
I was kind of joshing back and forth before we got into it. I was doing a little, it's kind of. By the way, you're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone.
I want to give these away because I could talk about baseball for 20 minutes if you want.
I'm Matt. Gary out today. Gary is currently. I don't know. Is he on an airplane right now? He's
they're on the bus.
They're taking the bus there?
Yeah.
That's the most normal I've heard you say airplane in a week and a half.
Aeroplane?
Okay. There now.
I like
There
it.
you go. They're on the bus. They're
by
on
the way,
way
give
to
them out at
Tulsa,
the end of the
Oklahoma,
segment.
because your Omaha Mavericks are 6-0 in the Summit League, having a historic season. I believe they've won 8 in a row as well. I mean, just absolutely incredible stuff. The team is playing at its tip-top shape. They had a really, really tough schedule, but now they've kind of turned the ship around, and Chris Crutchfield has those boys playing high-level basketball. Talking about high-level basketball, it will be in Omaha tomorrow. High-level basketball as well. Actually, Seton Hall isn't high-level basketball, but Creighton men.
This was established.
The Creighton men's basketball team will be taking on Seton Hall.
3 out of 4 ain't bad.
We'll be taking on.
Nice. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
We'll be taking on Seton Hall, and then after that, the Creighton women will be taking on Paige Beckers and the Yukon Huskies. We have tickets to give away. We have 4 tickets to give away.
Yeah.
We have 4 tickets to give away to the Creighton women's basketball game against Yukon tomorrow.
Wait till the break to have them call in.
We got to wait till the break?
Yeah, wait till the break to have them call in.
Oh, okay. We don't do it during the... All right, fine.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait till the break to do it. I thought we were going to do it right away.
Well, I mean, you could do it at the end of the segment, and then when we go to break, they'll call in.
Okay. Well, we'll do that.
Tell me more about how this radio thing's supposed to work, Jim.
No, I thought we just do it now. I mean, it's just...
I'll explain to you.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Nebraska football, NFL football.
Yes.
Happening. AFC Championship game happening. NFC Championship game happening.
4 teams playing.
Some could
Not
say
all one game.
that this AFC Championship game is the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl.
Many say.
You could. Yeah.
Would you go as far? I mean, whoever wins the AFC, who would be favored in a Philadelphia, Kansas City Super Bowl? You got to think it would be the Chiefs, right? But I feel like we've done this song and dance so many times
Whatever
before
Taylor
with the
wants.
KC Chiefs. Well, I don't think Taylor is talking to Las Vegas about the lines or anything
Be
like
surprised. She has a lot of... You're the one who said she has all the power.
that. No, that was Gary. I didn't admit she has any power. I barely admitted that she existed.
Taylor and the Illuminati, all that.
Well, we have our modern Josh Allen, or our modern Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady, when Josh Allen takes on Patrick Mahomes for the 4th time in the playoffs. Mahomes has a 3-0 record. I've been debating with myself here, what would be the better story for the NFL? What would the NFL want more? Would they rather have the Buffalo Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs, finally get over the hump, finally get into the Super Bowl, have a fan base that has been dying to see a winner, finally have an opportunity to do it after 4 times in a row, some odd years ago, they failed to do so? Would the NFL rather have Josh Allen lead the Bills into the promised land with the potential of making the next great big super... I mean, he already is a superstar, but putting himself on basically a Hall of Fame level
hero
at this point, making him a national Buffalo hero. We'll never have to buy dinner or drinks again if we were able to do it. Or would they rather have their golden boy, their baby face, their, I mean, golden goose, basically.
Their Kermit voice actor.
Their Patrick Mahomes get to the Super Bowl and do what I think no one thought was possible. Nobody thought winning 3 Super Bowls was possible.
Because it hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, because it hasn't happened.
Would have if they'd have thrown a flag on Dion 30 years ago.
Even things that haven't happened, you're like, that will never happen.
Right.
Would they rather have Mahomes win 3 in a row, or they rather have Josh Allen and the Bills win a Super Bowl? I think it's a legitimate question. If you were to ask people within the NFL building, what do you think is better for the league?
It depends.
I think it's a legit question.
Well, I think
it is. It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question because I think there are some that, especially if you're out of it, a lot of those NFL offices would be like, we legitimately don't care. We're doing these things. But I think there's an argument to be made that if you are a different NFL franchise, you want the Chiefs to not win. You want this dynasty to come to an end.
Die.
Like that's what you want. You want to try to go, okay, how do you get Travis Kelce to retire?
Mm-hmm.
And remove another weapon from Patrick Mahomes? How do you get these things to come to an end? I think as a whole for other NFL teams, they want it to come to an end because then they have more of a chance.
Sure, I think I was just more so talking about like Roger Goodell's office.
Okay,
and
yeah.
like the people who
What makes them the most money?
What makes them the most money?
The Chiefs being in the
Taylor
Super Bowl.
Swift, yeah.
Like what's going to get more viewers? Chiefs Eagles will get more viewers than any of the others.
Okay, so that's true. That is a good point. But at the same time,
he's right.
Like, I think there would be a lot of people who are in their cars right now listening to the idea of the Kansas City Chiefs winning a 3rd Super Bowl and rolling their eyes. And being like, man, we've seen... Like,
possibly driving off the road.
They're getting sick of it.
Why do we hate greatness?
Well, I think we hate repetitiveness. Because I think as soon as Kansas City...
You hate it being forced down your face.
Well, I don't think they're being forced down the face.
Yes,
they
are.
Winning.
Trust
they
me.
keep winning,
They
though.
keep winning.
That's not them being forced down the face. That's just them winning.
Trust me.
They're a national. They're not being forced down the face. I mean, it's not like college football where we keep putting Ohio State at big noon kickoff.
They are world famous, though.
That's being forced down your face. I mean, Kansas City is a national product. I mean, the NFL is a national product no matter what. No matter where you play your game or when you play your game, everyone's going to be watching it because it's standalone.
Because
I don't think that's being... Yeah, well, I don't think that's being forced down your face as much as it is. People just don't like repetitiveness. They don't like seeing the same things over and over and over.
Would it be
again.
as bad if there wasn't the whole Taylor thing? And if it was the Chiefs
that's true.
football?
But is that Kansas City being
They're still
forced
just
down
as
your
good?
face, or is that Taylor being forced down your face?
And she's not really, by the way.
Not anymore. It's not. It's gotten a little. It's gotten. It's
no,
not
those
as bad
first
as it
games
used
weren't
to be.
even that much either. I'll say this though, Matt, you will appreciate this.
Yes.
My wife grew up a Green Bay Packers fan.
Why would I appreciate?
No.
I'm listening.
I'll bring it back. We had those mini helmets. She had a Green Bay Packers one from when she was little, so she got me a little Bears one. We have those up on a shelf. But over the last couple seasons, she is a full, all the way in.
Oh, okay, now
Kansas City
it.
Chiefs fan.
That's what happens.
And she knows. And what I appreciate about that, as one being semi kind of a Bears fan, is where things don't go right. She knows when the Chiefs are going to be on next. And we tell our daughter, we go, we're going to watch Taylor Swift football, which is fun.
I can't wait for that video game.
We're going to watch Taylor. That would be a
I would
sick
play
video
it. I
game.
would totally. I'm not going to lie.
Who are you inviting into the box this week? Caitlin Clark. Awesome. Let's break the internet. So we tell our daughter.
As you like level up, you get more and more famous people you can invite into the box to watch a game with you.
That would be an incredible.
Homeless guy's the first level.
Put it into Madden. You can put that into Madden.
Honestly, that's a great idea. What if they made just a Taylor Swift video game?
Oh, it's so
bestseller.
That would be, dude. How are we the first people to think?
But
of this?
I appreciate it because my wife is watching more football. Like she was early on in the season, she's like, "Why aren't they getting it to Pacheco more?" I go, "Thank you."
She's not wrong.
He's on my fantasy team. I would appreciate it if they did that too. And then like he broke a leg. So like I like it.
Good luck.
I have more of a connection now with the Chiefs than I did before Taylor Swift was dating Travis Kelce. I also, even just from proximity, there are a lot of Chiefs fans around here.
This is true.
You know?
This is factual.
I have no problem with there being greatness. I have no problem with there being a run. The Chiefs are still not anywhere near as hated as what the Patriots were during their heyday.
That would be a good poll question, actually.
Getting close.
You weren't okay. This is going to be
that poll question,
okay.
Jimmy.
Because I really do want to know what the listeners think.
You're going to get recency bias, is what you're going to get for it.
That's the thing.
No. This is the one time I'm going to do this to you. This will be the one time I ever do this to you.
No wedgies.
You weren't there.
I was there. I firmly was there. I so was there.
Oh, you pulled out the.
They won in
were
2017.
6?
No, when they won in 2017, and when
Okay,
they
in
won
20
in
Oh,
when they when
in
and I
2017.
remember when the Giants beat them, and I remember when the Giants beat them twice. I remember when the Eagles beat them. I remember when they beat the LA Rams. I remember when they beat the Seattle Seahawks. I watched all those Super Bowls. I totally was there.
I watched the Bears crush
totally
them.
was in
I'm
the flesh.
talking about 2008.
Okay, I'm talking about when they won 3 Super Bowls in one decade, and everybody hated on them. Caleb, I was there. Okay, I was there. I was there for all of it. I've watched 5. I've watched all those New England Patriots Super Bowls. I was there.
It was there was a hatred for those Patriots that does not exist. If you does not exist for the Chiefs right now.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Can the Chiefs probably get there? Maybe.
Real quick. Did the Chiefs do Spygate? No.
They do need their own gate.
Did the Chiefs do Deflategate? No. So the Chiefs have gotten all of this hate, incomparable hate, to the point where Jimmy's a sport guy. Jimmy's been there.
I've watched a couple games.
He hears that question and hears, who's more hated, the Chiefs or the Patriots?
Then again, I got to sit this one out because I lived
it's
there.
a legitimate question, right? The Chiefs have gotten so much hate, and they haven't even cheated. They haven't deflated the footballs. They haven't tried and get into other teams' practices to give themselves an advantage. They've done zero cheating. They've actually, in the last 11 games, 10 of them, they've had more penalty yards than the other team. Yet we keep doing the same narrative over and over again that they're somehow being helped out by the referees. Now, are there some bad calls? Sure. Are there some calls that go the Chiefs' way? Absolutely. I'm not denying that.
So why do you think the Chiefs are as hated as the
penalty?
Patriots were?
Because it is comparable, because everybody's sick and tired of them winning, because every time it says, here come the Chiefs again, oh my God, it's cheating.
And they win boring like the Patriots did, which
you have
there's
to beat
nothing
two
wrong.
teams
Winning's
when you play
winning.
the Chiefs. You have to beat the Chiefs and you have to beat the refs. Oh, Mahomes gets all the calls. Oh, Mahomes is flopping. Oh, Mahomes. Like, there is all of that conversation, and they're getting all of that hate, and they haven't even cheated. They haven't even done anything illegal
That we know of.
They've done zero illegal things.
Do something.
And yet they are comparable to the fact that they are a dynasty that's getting nearly or even maybe even more hate than the Patriots are. It's comparable.
Polls up by the we already have 9 votes. That was quick. Are the Chiefs as hated now as the Patriots were? Yes, 56, no 44. But we're reporting early. 1% of the precincts have reported.
The early returns.
Early returns
We're saying
are in.
too early to call.
To the zone election office. But we'll keep you posted as the day continues.
Thank you. That's Jimmy Chavez on the recent election of who's the most hated. I just don't think it's close.
I think I'm not saying the Chiefs are more hated, but to not say it's close is not. It is close. It is for sure close.
Yeah,
it is for sure close. It's for sure a conversation.
Not close. Now here's why.
The recency thing is a thing that I kept coming back to with Caleb.
There's absolutely a recency. How's about this for where we are in the country? By proximity, we are around more Chiefs fans. If you're not a Chiefs fan, you are around more Chiefs fans than you probably were Patriots fans, unless you lived in the New England area.
Well, that's the one thing.
I mean,
the New England area. I mean, they own that area,
right,
so there really isn't a proximity to anything.
Well, and no, that's what I'm saying is there's a proximity to being around Chiefs fans right now. You do hear about it more in a day-to-day, in interacting with other people in real life, not just social media.
No, Caleb's right. I mean, and even moving here, it's not
City,
as much as when living down there and how different it was. But
if the Kansas City Chiefs were to win 3 in a row, it would automatically
greatest dynasty in NFL.
It would automatically become greater than the New England Patriot dynasty,
like the Empire slaughtering.
And I would even go as far to say is that it would be the greatest accomplishment post 1980 in all of sports.
Okay? You said that yesterday, and I agreed with you because the rebuttal to that is, well, has anyone else done it?
No.
There's your answer.
Yeah.
And so
there's not many things you can say that
pre 1980, like you have the Celtics dynasty, you have the UCLA dynasty.
You only have 3
have those
channels.
Teams that won all of those titles in that time. So it's just like, yes, no one will ever do that again. You can now.
You don't include like Lakers and Celtics in the 80s,
but it's different though.
Bulls in the 90s,
because it is harder. It is harder to win a Super Bowl than it is to win an NBA championship, in my opinion. Okay.
What about 6 and 8 years?
I would say 3 Super Bowls in a row is harder than 6 and 8 years.
For the NBA?
Yeah. I would say 3 Super Bowls in a row. Man, it's football. It is a tough sport. I mean, how often do we see teams win 1 Super Bowl and then the next year they take a massive fall off? How many times do we see teams make the Super Bowl and then the next year they have a massive fall off? Denver Broncos haven't won a playoff game since they won their Super Bowl in 2016. I mean, you look at the LA Rams after they went to the Super Bowl, where they ended up winning the next year, but when they won the Super Bowl, or 2 years later, anyway, when the Rams won the Super Bowl against Cincinnati Bengals, they had a terrible year the next go-around. When the San Francisco 49ers went to the Super Bowl, lost to the Chiefs, they had a bad go-around the year after that. San Francisco 49ers were in the Super Bowl last year. They've had a bad go-around this year. I mean, look what happened to the Carolina Panthers after they made the Super Bowl. They never got back there.
Yeah, and they folded since.
They folded since. I mean, it is a grueling game.
It's hard to get back once, let alone all these times.
It's so you could go as far to say, and I've said this
especially when you
before,
have a target on
making 4 Super Bowls in a row is probably more impressive than winning a Super Bowl.
The NBA has not had a repeat winner since Golden State in 2017 and 2018.
The last time that so the last repeat winner was obviously the Kansas City Chiefs. But then the time before that, I think you would have to date all the way back to like
Patriots
in 2004 and 2005, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a longer gap. And then after that, after the Golden State repeat, you don't have to go too far after that to do the Miami Heat repeat, which then actually came off the heels minus the 2011 Dallas Mavericks, where you had the LA Lakers repeat in 2009 and 2010. And then you had that weird stretch of like teams like the Pistons and the Heat and the San Antonio Spurs. But then you did have another three-peat after the Bulls three-peat in the Lakers in 2000, 2001, and 2002.
I was there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you've had, let's just ask
but that wasn't 6 and 8.
But let's ask this question.
If it was just which is harder to three-peat, obviously.
What is your confidence level that if the Chiefs were to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, what is your confidence level that someone in the next 3 years would be able to do the same thing again?
Won't happen.
Well,
because if it was that easy, it would happen.
It's never happened in the sport.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
Which is also why I'm saying you'll never
the Bulls three-peat, and then you have two years later, and then the Lakers three-peat. That'll never happen. That'll never ever happen in the NFL.
Well, you'll never have again in the NBA one franchise win 6 out of 8. It'll never happen again.
A franchise wins 6 out of 8.
Yes, that's what the Bulls did. That's what I'm saying.
But you're saying it will never happen in the NBA. You'll never have a team.
It'll never happen again. Now you can go back and you can talk about the Lakers teams. You can talk about those Celtics teams.
The Warriors came close. The Warriors, you could argue, should have had 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You can argue they could have had 5 in a row. I mean, if Kevin Durant doesn't get hurt, they end up having 5 and 6 years.
Yeah.
Which you could argue is more impressive than 6 and 8.
They ultimately won 4 and 8.
15, 17, 18.
Yeah. I'd still be more impressed by
22.
The Chiefs, though.
And 22. That's a good
That's
point.
hard.
It's hard.
Now, and I'm someone who talks about the 90s being watered down for what Jordan was able to accomplish. That's a different conversation because of the league expanding and you're able to run off a couple of easier wins. That's not to say that you compare eras, but I do think that like the 90s was a little bit watered down at the bottom and through the middle, but it was still 6 and 8.
You still had to go through a lot of dudes.
You had to go through some dudes.
And it was officiated differently.
Tim brings up a good point. Green Bay won 3 straight NFL championships. Only 2 were Super Bowls. I think we're more. I mean that.
Yeah, when you're talking pro football championships.
Yeah, pro football championships. That's a little bit different than the Super Bowl with the the AFL and the NFL and the combination and the competition has gone up and since then and you have way more teams.
It's hard when everybody's gunning for you.
Exactly.
I don't know, especially now more than ever. It's like double the hate and you're still winning.
What would be more impressive? I don't think this is a good question, but you got to argue that if Jaden Daniels were to win the Super Bowl in his first season with a Washington Commanders team that's
rightfully pretty damn special,
had the second overall pick last year in the NFL draft, it's not as impressive as winning 3 in a row, But man, that would be something.
Well, there's a difference between lightning in a bottle and everything falling your way versus sustained success.
Absolutely. But what's more special?
Staying on top's hard.
Just top's hard.
Winning it all is special.
And the thing about the Chiefs, it's not like they're playing chopped liver. They've beaten Buffalo 3 times.
Dan,
Baltimore.
I'm not knocking the Packers down as if winning 3 NFL championships doesn't matter. It definitely does matter. It definitely is an accomplishment. It's just not as much. It's not as an accomplishment as winning 3 Super Bowls in a row because the competition is higher nowadays than it was back then. That's just a fact. But I'm not knocking them down. Packers are one of the best organizations of all time. I will admit that. I can't stand them, but I'll admit that.
Yeah, must be nice. I'm jealous.
I wonder. I really do think. So you said that the NFL, their most intriguing matchup, the matchup that they would want the most, would be Eagles Chiefs. I disagree.
Easily.
Who's the casual going to watch more?
I disagree. I think the matchup that they would want the most is Washington versus Kansas City. And the reason why I say that is because no matter how you slice it, you create superstars. If Jaden Daniels were to win a Super Bowl in his very first year, the Washington Commanders, after having all those years of Dan Snyder just in the bucket,
and slayed that dragon of all teams,
and finally in their first year of having true ownership that gives a damn about the team, that they draft this superstar rookie quarterback. And if he were to go in and slay the dragon that really only one guy who's been able to slay, which is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the only guy who's been able to beat Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady.
He'll be watching the game like us Sunday.
But I think the NFL would want Jaden Daniels to be in the Super Bowl. Win-win, right? Kansas City wins, it's 3 in a row.
Yeah.
It's never happened before. It probably will never happen again. It cements Patrick Mahomes arguably as the greatest of all time, even before he gets to 6 or 7 Super Bowls like Tom Brady, like he's chasing. But if he were to lose that, Jaden Daniels becomes the biggest story, the biggest star in sports, period.
But you can get another Andy Reid storyline with Chiefs Eagles.
What would you
like? You can go back and play out all of those storylines.
Well, what's the significance if the Eagles were to win the Super Bowl? Right? I'm not going to say it's no Super Bowl is just any other Super Bowl. It's an incredible accomplishment.
A team that's built for sustained success. I think the Eagles are built for sustained success. It could be the passing of the torch. Not did you catch lightning in a bottle with your rookie quarterback and new management. It's the Eagles are more likely to, if they were to win, more likely to repeat next year than the Commanders would be.
We talk about some Super Bowl champions more than we talk about others. Okay, that's just sports. We talk about in every sport. There are some champions that stick out to us. There are some champions that kind of get swept under the rug.
Give me Dirk's Mavs every day of the week.
We talk about the 2016 and 2017 Pittsburgh Penguins with Sid the Kid, Phil Kessel, and Evgeny Malkin all the time in hockey. But we don't really talk about the 2006 Carolina Hurricanes as much. Okay? That's just not all champions are created equal. If Jaden Daniels were to win the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes or even against Josh Allen, we would be talking about that Super Bowl and that accomplishment way more than we would be talking about the Eagles beating either of those teams, in my opinion. Because
they
it's
have
so
one
special. Because that doesn't happen. Rookies don't have success, period. Let alone get to the NFC championship game, let alone get to the Super Bowl, let alone win the Super Bowl.
Well, and some of it is
against the 2-time champs.
What are the next
3-time champs?
For me, some of it is what do the next 5 years look like? Let's say
that's your superstar. Dan, that's your guy.
No, I know, but I'm saying if the Commanders win and then do nothing, you just go, well, they got that one. It was great.
Hey, many teams would take that one.
I know. What I would do, Chavez.
I know. But let's say the Eagles win and they win 2 more over the next 5. Because they're built for better success long term. And I don't know who drafts and like free agency and all of those things. That can change a lot. But you've got your quarterback situation locked down. You've got Saquon Barkley in the backfield. Like, you have this defense that's really good. There are so many things that I like more about Philadelphia over the next 5 years than I like about Washington. So if it's when you're looking at like long-term legacies, rookie quarterback got one, or Eagles won 3 out of the next 6 after slaying the dragon to stop them from getting to the 3-peat.
I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but that still has to happen, right? Like that still has to occur. Like Philadelphia, for as easily as they could win the Super Bowl, and has the same success, they can end up being the LA Rams and just fall and collapse, or be the San Francisco 49ers after their 2 years of getting to the Super Bowl and then falling and collapsing. It's a good conversation that can happen. A couple of things before we get to our break here. We'll just say it. Pimp King on Twitter says, no way does a single current NBA team remotely hang with the Showtime Lakers, the Celtics of the same era, the Bad Boy Pistons, or the 6 championship Bulls. All of the above would have taken out the 73-win Warriors. I don't think that's a bad take. Currently, in our early voting results, are the Chiefs as hated now as the Patriots were? 57% say yes, 43% say no. We'll keep that tracking.
It's good to be loud and wrong.
We'll do a little bit more of the NFL talk. We'll do a little bit of Husker football. We got Matt Verel coming up at 9:20, but before him, we got Mike Schaefer coming up at 9. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. Any way you want it. I think it's any way you can get it right now for Nebraska basketball. No matter what it takes, just get a win. They play Sunday versus the Wisconsin Badgers on the road. That'll be a tough game, but an opportunity to turn their season around. Creighton basketball tomorrow in the pink out. Should be an awesome, awesome game against Seton Hall. And then after that, Paige Beckers and company come to town to take on Creighton women's basketball. That's at 4:30. Should be a fun, fun weekend. Hey, don't forget about the University of Nebraska Omaha Mavericks hockey taking on St. Cloud Skate on Friday. And hey, if you have the Summit League Plus subscription like I do, UNO basketball is on an absolute heater, 6-0 in the Summit League. They take on the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles. I'm Matt McMaster. You're listening to Gary and Matt. Gary not here today. He's on the road because he is announcing that UNO Mavericks basketball game when they take on ORU, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, Caleb Henry. On the ones and twos, Jimmy Chavez. It's been a good show so far. We've been talking.
I've enjoyed it.
Talking a lot of things. Let's talk about Ichiro Suzuki.
One of my favorite players.
It's been a good show. We talked about basketball early on. We talked about UNL. We talked about UNO. We talked about Creighton.
Let's get some warm thoughts.
The AFC Championship, the NFC Championship.
You mentioned hockey.
I mentioned hockey.
Like we've hit a lot of sports.
We've hit a lot
here.
of stuff. Let's go to baseball. Trying to get all big four. Maybe we do a soccer segment later in the show. Maybe when we bring on Matt Verel at 9:20, we ask him about soccer.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I don't think that'll go over too well.
No.
Ichiro, though, got in the Hall of Fame a couple of days ago, along with Billy Wagner and CC Sabathia. Ichiro, not a unanimous Hall of Famer. He missed out by one vote, which, Jimmy, if you look at the tapes, I called it.
You did.
I called it.
I thought of that when I saw it.
I said it would happen. I said there would be some old hag who, for whatever reason, just wouldn't vote Ichiro. He would make some stupid. He would just try and, I'm trying to keep, it being unanimous.
Babe Ruth wasn't a first ballot unanimous.
Or he was only 28 when he came in. He'd be, he didn't play in the MLB long enough or whatever. They'd make some stupid.
He's from another country.
Yeah, probably maybe even a little bit. You can't
knows?
rule that out.
Ichiro.
Who knows? Anyway,
love Ichiro.
He's a unanimous Hall of Famer. Well, a non-unanimous Hall of Famer, so just a regular Hall of Famer who absolutely should be unanimous.
Unanimous in our
He
hearts.
was then asked, why, how do you feel about not being unanimous? He goes, there's one writer that I wasn't able to get a vote from. I would like to invite him over to my house and we'll have a drink together and we'll have a good chat. Which I don't think that was
actually
a threat.
Sweet.
I think that was I think he's being honest. And I think that he would actually like to sit down and have a chat with the guy and just talk to him.
That would make me not want to vote for him so that I could drink.
I was just going to say, do you know what that just enticed me to do? Not vote for guys going forward, hoping that they go, oh, that was the only one. Come over for a drink. We'll hang out.
What's that?
Nothing.
Oh,
I've been.
But here, I'll say this: does it matter? Does it ultimately matter if it was unanimous or not? He's still going into the hall. It's just not going to say unanimous.
Yeah. So here's my question. So you just said you would not want to vote for him.
That was tongue in cheek.
Okay. So this is my question. This is the segment.
Wants to hang out with him.
What's one Hall of Famer that you would like to have a drink with? Nice. You get to pick one Hall of Famer. You get to sit down with him, have a nice cold beer, talk shop. I'll give you 2 hours.
Just Major League Baseball Hall of Fame or just anyone in the
Hall of Famer.
You can come up with one from
any
whatever
athlete.
sport.
Any athlete. Equitable Bank inbox line 1620 the zone. Matt at 1620thezone.com. That's the question. One Hall of Famer that you could have a drink with and hang out for a little bit. Who would it be? Off top my dome. See, if we're doing a live, are we doing dead or alive?
Yeah.
Okay. For sure, Walter Payton. Without a doubt, for me.
It's a great choice.
Not because, it's not just because he's the greatest running back of all time. And yeah, you can come at me with Barry Sanders. I'm being biased. Deal with it, okay? You're not going to get arguments out of me here.
Many love sweetness, so you're...
He's the greatest running back of all time, okay? Stop it. But he was a phenomenal human being. Did a lot in the Chicago community. Great ambassador for the Bears. His son Jarrett is a great ambassador for his legacy and whatnot. Still very.
There's a reason awards are named after people.
Exactly. I mean, the Walter Payton Man of the Year. That's the type of man he was. I would love to sit down with him, have a beer, talk shop, talk the Bears, talk sweetness. Dana Hampton, Singletary, Perry.
Can I just join you? That sounds like a great.
Yeah.
Never mind my list. I want to sit with
guy
you.
You would want?
No, I got to think about that. I'm a little more. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who my Hall of Famer would be.
It's got to be Danny Manning, right?
No. It'd probably be one of the Cowboys.
Someone
or
from
now that all my Spurs
Dorsett?
are in.
Did you do Dorsett?
If we're doing any Halloween, if we're doing any Hall of Fame, I'd pick one of the Spurs. Talk to them.
Ooh, which Spur? Boris Diaw?
Yes. Tom Copa, Dallas Comegys, Frank Brickowski.
Well, that's something.
I'm probably going Larry Bird.
Really?
I'm probably going
Larry Bird,
the greatest trash talker of all time.
Well, also because there have been enough documentaries like this dude's got stories. And growing up, like I didn't have a strong recollection of the way everything went kind of like with the 90s Bulls, but like I had Bulls pennants because they were successful and there's not a professional franchise here. And really I started to understand the way sports go kind of like turn of the century. But I watched so much ESPN Classic growing up.
Same.
Watched a lot of Bird Celtics. Watched a lot of, obviously, Bird and Magic. I love that era. Like last time I was in here, I was talking with you guys. Obviously, it was an earlier era, but the ABA, right before they merged with the NBA, in one of my favorite books, Loose Balls. Like, I love 60s, 70s, 80s
basketball,
professional basketball in the United
golden
States.
Era.
You would love some of the stories in San Antonio.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, San Antonio, an ABA franchise, with plenty of stories within that book.
I would love to have a drink with John Daly.
Well, that one's more just like that feels like that could be a good time.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
What's the quality of it when you have like a beer? Like, are you trying to like go out afterwards? Are you just trying to like gain knowledge, or are you just trying to say, "Oh, I had a beer"?
Let's just say a 24-ounce good, because you're not gonna have just a can. You can have a big beer, so you can enjoy your conversation.
I don't know about you.
We're getting a pitcher.
Beers.
Well, you said a beer. I mean, if we're gonna do this right, we're getting pitchers. If we're sitting with the 85 Bears, there's going to be pitchers.
If we're at 85, it's penny pitcher night. If it's, I mean, in that America, that's acceptable. That's what you can do, man. I'm going to get to this point right now. I'm bitter about Jaden Daniels. I am bitter about the fact that he is not playing for the Chicago Bears. He is, I'll tell you this right now. If he ends up winning this game against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday, there's your superstar. Like there's your other superstar for the next 10 years. And it's funny. We have this conversation.
The next Mahomes.
That's the
down
hope.
The line.
But it's funny when we talk about the four best quarterbacks in the NFL. What do we talk about? Like, who are the four guys we mentioned? Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Where do all those guys play? The AFC. They're all in one conference. They're all cutting each other's heads out. In a perfect world, your divisional games are Cincinnati versus Buffalo and Ravens versus Chiefs.
That would be really damn good.
That is your ultimate hope. Okay, we get Burrow versus Allen, and we get Jackson versus Mahomes, and then when we get into the next round, it's whoever, and then one of those guys gets the Super Bowl. They all got to eat each other's heads off in order to get there. There's no guy like that in the NFC. Movie. There's no alpha like that in the NFC. It's year by year. You can make a legitimate argument that Jared Goff was the best quarterback in the NFC this year. You can make an argument, well, maybe if Hurts threw the ball more, he could be in that conversation. Heck, you could say statistically Sam Darnold was the best quarterback in the NFC this year. I mean, that's how barren and bone dry and just stacked the AFC is. If Jaden Daniels in his first year, in his rookie year, with a roster that literally not too long ago was the second worst record in the NFL,
earned the number 2 pick.
If he were able to go into that building and turn that franchise around along with Dan Quinn in the manner in which they have and get to the Super Bowl, there's your dog. Finally, we got an alpha in the NFC. Finally, we got a guy who we've been wanting to bring the level up in the NFC quarterback play to challenge these other, because the last couple of years, I mean, shout out Huskers X's and O's on Twitter, tweeted out to me that early lines now for the Super Bowl is no matter who the winner is, it's probably going to be -1.5. for the AFC.
Yeah.
Right? And we've been getting into the song and dance a little bit more so than not, that it's like, well, it's really who wins the AFC is who wins the Super Bowl. At least that's the perception going into the AFC Championship game. That's not always the result.
Here's why the Bears fan side of me would not be upset if Jaden Daniels has success.
Why?
Because for me, it goes back to the same, you missed out on, did you know Joe Burrow wanted to come to Nebraska?
Many have told me.
I hate that. That's my least favorite.
No. But here's why.
I know it happens.
Here's where that all comes in. Joe Burrow doesn't have that same success at Nebraska.
Right. That's what I always
He doesn't.
think
He doesn't win a national championship. He doesn't have the success that he had at LSU. He doesn't get drafted near as high.
There's no Joe Brady here.
Yeah, he doesn't go on to have that success. Maybe he still turns into some good pro success, but those 2 years in Baton Rouge are what made Joe Burrow to go to the NFL. He wasn't getting that in Lincoln. That's the fact of the way it is. Jaden Daniels is not having the success this year if he's in Chicago.
Make your predictions. Who ends up in the Super Bowl? Caleb Henry.
Chiefs, Eagles.
Same.
I'm going to go Washington Eagles. I think the Commanders do it. I think it's going to be close. Every game that the Commanders play, it's going to be a close game.
There'll be no blowouts
At the end of the game, it's going to be one of those, can Jaden do it? Can Jaden not do it? I think the Eagles are good, man. I think the Eagles have a legitimate, I think all four, I think that's why that's so great. We were talking about this, like what's better, the divisional, playoff games or the championship playoff games? I think this will be a
wrench
year
in there, and
I think this will be a year where the championship games are better because all four teams have a legitimate shot at winning the Super Bowl. Okay. And I don't think I would have
You
said
always
that.
got a chance if you get there.
Absolutely. But I mean, what Washington did to Detroit in the wagon that Detroit had been, and I understand they went through injuries, but still to cause that many turnovers against that good of an offense
and blow them out
in the manner in which they did. Look, Washington's got a legit shot, man. I think that I'm rooting for Jaden to do it.
Morning, John.
Because I think it'd be great for the league. I hate watching it because I wish he was my quarterback, and I was one of the guys who wanted him. I wanted the Bears to draft him over Caleb. I'll give myself a little credit, but I think I'm so excited for Sunday. It's going to be incredible. Hey, I'm excited for the rest of the show too. We got a little Huskers coming up here in the next segment. Then we're going to have Mike Schaefer at 9, and then Matt Verzel at 9:20.
Creighton tickets?
Creighton tickets. We'll give away Creighton tickets right now. 4 tickets.
They're physical. You have to pick them up by 5 o'clock today at 50th and Capitol.
What's the question, Caleb?
Creighton and UConn women have played each other 9 times. What is Creighton's record?
You answer that question correctly. First caller in to answer that question correctly. 4 tickets to tomorrow's game against UConn. Creighton women's basketball. Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. The lights are almost going to be out for the Gary and Matt show here in about an hour as we head into the weekend, but the lights will be up tomorrow.
You scared me. They're canceling us already?
No. I mean, like, we'll be done. Like, we'll be done for the week. Like, today's Friday. Like, we'll go into the weekend. Lights will be up, though, at the CHI Health Center tomorrow, 12:30. Creighton men's basketball takes on Seton Hall at 4:30. Creighton women's basketball takes on Paige Buchers and the UConn Huskies. Be a pink out for that game. Hey, go over to the Hope Lodge today, anytime between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. to visit our guys at the Connor Happer show or at Unsportsmanlike Conduct. They're over there supporting the pink out, such a great cause. We have given away the 4 basketball tickets to the Creighton women's basketball game. Kyle was our winner. The answer to the question, what is Creighton women's basketball record against UConn?
Caleb?
It is 0-9.
0-9.
It is a good time to get that first one.
If there's more than a time than ever, it's tomorrow at the Pink Out at the Chai Health Center.
Mm-hmm.
Inspiring. It'll be an incredible game. Little back-to-back action, 12:30, then 4:30. Should be rocking.
Hockey
at the Chai.
UNO at night.
Hockey at
What a
UNO.
great day.
They're just bringing it. It's popping. It's been popping here in Omaha for sports. I mean, every week it seems like there's a big event. Yesterday, UNO men's basketball picked up a historic 6th win in a row. You know what? We've gone like 7 straight hours now without talking Husker football. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that something? We did not
incredible.
We did not talk about Husker football yesterday for 4 hours. We haven't talked about Husker football for 3 hours up to this point. We will talk about it for quite a bit coming up here, where we got Mike Schaefer at 9, Matt Verzel at 9:20, Caleb Henry. The little primer before we head into Schaefer and Verzel. Give me your top 3.
Top 3.
Nebraska football players that have to take a jump this year if the team is going to take the next step. You cannot include Dylan Raiola because it's already spoken.
Yeah,
for.
pick someone else.
Pick someone else.
That's number 1.
Make a new friend.
Obviously number 1.
That's obviously number 1.
Give me 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right up there, and it's not necessarily one guy at all, and I thought they played well as a unit. It's the offensive line.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily any one guy, but it's the offensive line, and I thought they had a better year this year. For me, number 2, because I know where some of these other weapons are, Heinrich Harburg.
Ooh. Do tell.
Because I think what he is able to do athletically, and now moving to tight end, to moving where he's going to get the ball in a little bit different position and be dynamic with that offense, because it was Nebraska's offense that was ultimately letting them down over that stretch.
Yeah.
Like the defense was playing well. I think it's going to be finding a way to get him the ball, seeing what Emmett Johnson can do with the ball, seeing what Ja'Cory Barney can do with the ball, and adding in those new transfers and Heinrich Harburg there as well as he transitions to tight end. And for me, the other one, I will give one on defense.
Give it to me.
Because you're going to have to figure out who is going to be playing in your secondary.
Okay.
I think you got the potential for Caleb Benning to be that guy.
Ooh. Okay. I like it.
I think you got the potential.
He looked good.
Big offseason here. He looked good in the little bit you were able to see him in a redshirt season.
Yep.
Can you go now with a new secondary coach, with a new defensive coordinator? You've had success. You made a bowl game. I think Caleb Benning's that next guy for me.
Caleb is one of those players where...
Fantastic first name, first of all.
He is a football player. You watch him play at Westside, you're like, that. He's got the intangibles, but he's also got the technique. He also knows how to play corner. He also knows how to play in the secondary. Like, knows where to put his hands. He knows how to dive in on the ball. It's just watching him in high school and then watching him in the bit where he played at the Pinstripe Bowl. Like, he gets it. The kid just gets it. He understands it. He's a football. Is he the tallest guy, the fastest guy, the flashiest guy? Does he have the best measurables? No, he doesn't. But he's a football player, and he knows how to play football. And it's like, that's the most valuable thing, right? You could teach. It's hard. It's really easy to say, oh, we got an athlete, we're going to teach him how to play football. It's easy to say that, but it's really hard to do that. Caleb's one of those guys where it's just, he's a football player.
Yeah.
And if he takes a jump this year, that would be massive, because you're absolutely right. They need better players. They need someone to step up in the secondary, because they don't have that alpha right now. And they have a lot of they have 29 defensive backs.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of candidates who's going to be the alpha. Caleb taking a massive step.
You're going to have to shake it up there.
So I have two on the defensive line. I have one on the offense. Two on the defensive line is Keona Davis and Williams Winery. And
you're going with the transfer?
Yes. And the reason why is because you don't have a sack man on that D-line right now. You don't have that guy coming off of the edge. James Williams, for the most part, was that guy. But he was a little select in the snaps that he could play. Now, granted, James got better as the year had gone on. He wasn't just a specialty rusher anymore. He could still play within a game, but he wasn't necessarily always a 3-down guy. Winery has the opportunity to be a 3-down guy, and they need someone coming off that edge and hitting the quarterback and creating explosive plays in the defensive end that knock the offense back. Keona Davis is one that I point out, and you can really say this for the whole interior defensive line, maybe more so Riley Van Poppel, but the reason I go with
I was going to say Riley Van Poppel was close on my list.
The reason why I say Keona is that because RVP, even if he just takes a good step, a decent step in the right direction, he's going to be a pretty damn good football player. Keona Davis, if he's able to take a big step and be that other anchor with RVP, that would be massive. My one on offense, Dane Key. Be the guy. Be the number one dude. Be a draft pick. Be a guy that they can't deny in the NFL draft. Take that next step.
Non-transfer offensive guy?
Luke Lindenmeyer. He's a full package. If he can take another step, especially in the pass catching game, sky's the limit for that guy.
Let's see Emmett Johnson get better out of that backfield.
Hey, I'd love to see that too. Hey, we got some interviews coming up. Our guy, Mr. Mike Schaefer, at 9 o'clock, and then right after him, Matt Verel at 9:20. It's a good show. It's a good way to end the week, heading into the weekend. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. As they say in Kentucky, once a year, we are down the stretch.
Wait a minute, you're just going to interrupt the darkness like that?
I had a really
behind the steering wheel.
I had a really good intro, like in my head for this
You
Mr.
still
Mike
do.
Schaefer.
Touching you.
Can we just go to break and then reignite this here?
Do over.
I'm sorry, he played the darkness coming back. All right.
All right, so much for the great intro. We're down the stretch. Here's our friend Mike Schaefer. Hey, Mike, how you doing, man?
There's Mike.
I'm doing well. What do we got going on this morning?
It's myself.
I believe in God.
Sorry, let me do a proper intro here. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. I'm Matt McMaster, Gary Sharp on the road with the red hot Omaha Mavericks, who are going to Tulsa, Oklahoma to take on the ORU Golden Eagles. So I am joined by Mr. Caleb Henry, and now we are joined by our friend, Husker 24/7 writer, Mike Schaefer.
Mike. Wow, I haven't done radio with Caleb Henry in some time. This is an exciting opportunity in front of me here.
Been a hot minute, Schaefer. Been a hot minute.
You know, I told Caleb, I go, is this a radio show or is this just a Friday night out at the Haymarket talking football? I mean, this is
only after we all happen to meet up randomly after going to Nickelback in October.
That's what it was.
Okay, people.
That was a phenomenal meetup.
People are like, wait, what? That happened. We all just decided to go to Nickelback. No one communicated to each other that we were going to Nickelback.
So you left that out.
Caleb was going.
You knew Caleb was going? Wow, I was left out.
We had talked earlier that day on a radio show. Even.
Funny enough.
I was hammering ciders ready to listen to Animals.
Caleb Henry out of context. That's incredible. Mike, I want to talk about one situation that's currently going on just in the grand scheme of college football. Xavier Lucas is a player out in Wisconsin. He
anymore.
Wanted to enter the transfer portal and go to Miami, but the transfer portal window was essentially closed, and Wisconsin was like, "Well, it's closed. You can't go." And Xavier Lucas said, "Nope, I'm going to go anyway." And so now he's just going to Miami, and now there's going to be this whole, I'm assuming, litigation will go into the fact of whether or not he's allowed to do that, allowed to just unenroll outside of the transfer portal window and then re-enroll essentially in Miami. Can you give us any details of the situation that I miss out on? Maybe you can fill me in on that. And what would this do to college football if this were able, if they allowed him to do this?
I guess part of it was, didn't this issue come well before the transfer portal window closed? Like he wanted to leave and Wisconsin blocked him from leaving because he had signed he had signed something.
Like a financial offer.
Yes.
Right. And so I don't even know that it predates the idea of the portal window closing.
Mm-hmm.
We're just in this awful period of time where everything is going to be challenged in the courts. The courts are throwing everything open and there are no rules. So I don't have a whole lot more information.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of those that is a super unique situation, but it's also, if precedent gets set that, Xavier Lucas can leave in a non-portal window time, or that Wisconsin can block somebody from going, like it's either way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a precedent gets set that is sort of far-reaching in terms of consequence. So I don't know like how this one is going to play out. It's also one of those where like, and I'm probably just not thinking hard enough on this. Like it's one of those where it always fascinates me how people that end up in these situations aren't really like, is Xavier Lucas going to be a big difference maker for Miami?
Sure. That's a great point.
So, but the idea is more the precedent. So that's what matters.
Exactly.
And with apologies to Xavier Lucas and his family, he's sort of the secondary aspect of this versus whatever the precedent ends up being. And then, how this all gets, how it all plays out going forward. Because if he can challenge and wins in court that he can transfer whenever he wants, despite whatever the rules that everyone had agreed upon were, then the idea becomes, well, okay, it doesn't matter if the committee puts together or agrees to have this portal window of 10 days in January next year, because you can just go to the court system and throw it wide open anyway.
So essentially, yeah. Well,
I mean, I guess the problem I have is that we're just in this period of time where it's like you can't even establish framework of rules.
Yes.
Because everything is going to get challenged. So how do you have any kind of, I guess, like any kind of regulation at all? And so it's just, I never envisioned this being as big of a mess as it is. And maybe there were people out there who saw all of this coming. I think there was definitely people who saw the multiple transfers and all of that. I don't know that we saw that the court system was just going to be like, you know what? Nothing matters. Rules don't matter. Regulations don't matter, which is wild because it's the court system. But there's a lot in here that has to be solved, and it's going to take people a lot smarter than me and the willingness to compromise, which does not seem like that's going to be a thing from either the player side, who have no collective representation, which is a big part of this, or the coaches side, who do have a collective representation, but are more than willing to go against what they vote on if it benefits them, as we've seen in the past. So it's a really, college sports is in a super weird spot, which is unfortunate because instead of talking about, things like the great college football playoff that played out in front of us, we have to spend our time talking about a defensive back who may be playing for Miami or Wisconsin next year. We don't really know, but could set, a massive precedent for how the transfer portal operates going forward.
So essentially, he entered in a 2-year binding agreement with under NIL constraints with Wisconsin. So Wisconsin was like, you're under this contract, you can't go anywhere. Lucas says, screw that, I'm going to go anyway. And then now it's essentially
said contracts aren't a real thing now.
Yeah. So essentially, it's now if Wisconsin decides to go to the courts and sue him, and it's going to set a massive precedent of whether or not these contracts are binding, or whether or not you can really just go whenever the hell you want. Either way, it would put another wrinkle into everything and probably put us a step closer, regardless of going to a collective bargaining agreement, which who in the bleep knows when that's going to happen, or even that is going to be tabled at a discussion. But you're absolutely right. I mean, just taken away from the product, left, right, and center with all the things that are happening around the football as opposed to the actual football.
Well,
it's honestly, like I had said this before, I always thought baseball was the king of terrible optics in an off season and just made people hate the sport that they actually like.
Yeah.
And here comes college athletics just charging through the door like Kool-Aid Man. Like, don't forget about us. We're going to be the most obnoxious, annoying thing in the world. And it sucks. The product has issues, right? Like, especially with the portal, you're going to have teams that just don't have consistency in terms of players that and all of that. But the sport is still good. The games can still be good. The games can still be memorable. But the games are played once a week for a 3-month, 4-month session. The rest of it is just us having endless discussions about stuff that, frankly, I don't know where you guys are at with it. I try to tune a lot of this out. Like, and it's my job, like that's the bad part. I'm supposed to be someone who's really locked in on this.
Yeah.
And I mean, I am to a degree, but it's really hard to care when a set of rules gets created and then 48 hours later, we're having a court challenge and it's something else entirely. Like, the average fan should not spend a lot of time thinking about this because, frankly, it's going to change 7 more times before any of it matters.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you Schaefer, you had speaking of rules changing, we're going to get to revenue sharing, later on this year, and schools had started to announce the way that they were going to break up the revenue sharing. Department of Education comes out and says, well, you have to do it this way by Title IX. So the rules are constantly changing. We don't know what anyone's actually playing under. Right now, it seems like the only rule that is a constant is you can't leave a team mid-season and go play for another team. Like that,
which is good. I like that rule. Let's try to keep that one.
Let's not scrap everything. Like right now, you still have to be academically eligible and enrolled at the beginning of the semester. Like, we still have that. As for the football on the field, Schaefer, first year of the 12-team playoff, you've got the first year of an even bigger SEC, an even bigger Big Ten. The Pac-12 is down to 2 and playing in the Mountain West. What was your take on just the season that was? And, of course, now we're wrapped up. You've got Ohio State, who lost to Michigan, didn't play for a Big Ten title, but is national champions.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we saw out of this was the 12-team playoff was a massive success in terms of you gave teams more opportunities. More teams got opportunities that wouldn't have played in the playoff. You could make the case, and I feel this way, that the most talented team in the country won the title, even though they had lost 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who likes the NFL and likes the NFL playoffs, would be totally fine if the Commanders beat the Eagles and are, not the NFC East champions, but still won the NFC, because that's how a playoff works. I'm good with that. And so I'm totally fine with what we saw this year. I thought it was great that we got right off the bat, a group of 5 team had the opportunity to get into the second round of the playoffs because they had won games on the field. Everyone had to earn, stuff that in front of them. It's wild that all of the teams that had a bye lost immediately. There's definitely changes I would like to see happen. I would definitely like to see teams that earn a bye should have the opportunity to play one more home game. That's probably the biggest change that I would enact. I don't even know that I want to go to 16 teams. I think I'm fine with 12.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to see the first and second round games played on home.
Yes.
Because I think those teams that earn byes should have gotten an opportunity. We should have seen Penn State have to go to Boise and play on the blue field. We should have seen, Texas playing under the lights in Tempe. We should have seen Oregon hosting Ohio State, what would have been the most insane environment in a college football game in all of 2024, 25.
Absolutely.
And I think we kind of got robbed of those things. And I hope that is now, it doesn't sound like that's going to happen for this next year, but I hope that's a real conversation, because I think the other killer here is, if you were an Ohio State fan, you probably couldn't get to all 3 of those games. It's tough to ask. They had the home game, of course, but then you go to the Rose Bowl, and then you've got, actually 4 games. You go to the Rose Bowl, you got, after that, you have the game against Texas, and then you have the game in the national championship in Atlanta. So I really think they have to look at home games for the second round, just because it seems like that would be a better idea overall for fans. Asking them to spend that much money going to these places that have no connection to anything. It's those are kind of the small changes. Overall, I thought the college football playoff was a success. I thought it was a great year. It was a fun year. We never knew who was going to be the front runner for a title at any point in time. And this is maybe the most important thing, we got to dunk on the SEC, and everybody loves that.
That's all we really want to do.
Mike, is the bar now and kind of forever for Nebraska football to make the college football playoff? Is that just the precedent? Every year as you walk in, you're like, all right, this should be a team with all the money and resources and whatnot to make the 12-team field?
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the goal, right? But I think for a team that's still in the infancy of winning, which, they managed to get to the Pinstripe Bowl, I would think the next big step is to prove that you're more than just a middle of the road to lower end Big Ten team.
Yeah.
I don't care about Nebraska making the college football playoff until it happens. It's not to me, I need to see Nebraska prove that they can finish games against Illinois, that they can handle UCLA coming to town who didn't even make a bowl game and win that game, before I start having the thoughts in my mind about Nebraska as a college football playoff team. I think around here, you want so badly for it to be back to what it was that this idea that Nebraska can just skip steps to get there, just because we've seen Indiana jump into the college football playoff. And I understand, I'm not trying to say that they need another 8 years to be able to show that they can be a ranked team. I'm just saying, for me personally, I kind of need to see Nebraska show consistency before I even worry about the idea that they could be like the 10 seed in a college football playoff. Now, should that be the standard? And I think that's more the question of what you're asking.
Yeah.
Sure. That's totally fine. How do you measure that standard when you don't even seem close to it right now? That's sort of where I'm at in my mind. So it's kind of the idea that Matt Rule is building towards that. Do we think realistically he should be there in 25, or is it more likely 26, Dylan's third year, if you would, that Nebraska might be in their best position for?
Yeah.
So, it's a really interesting, fascinating conversation.
Well, and your next step for the Huskers is getting into this off-season. Your colleague Michael Bruns has got a story up on that roster update from yesterday. 132 players listed on the roster. You got to get to 105 before this fall. Any surprises on that roster update, and how do you see that configuration going over the next couple months before we get to, at least for now, another transfer portal window?
I think there was a handful, and I don't have the names right off the top of my head, but there's a handful of walk-on types that I think have already just sort of chosen to just be students at the University of Nebraska. I think Alex Bullock is one of them.
Yep, Bullock and Barrett Leventritt. Those would be the two biggest ones.
I don't think they went into the portal. I think they're staying at Nebraska and just finishing their careers as students. And I could be wrong on that, but I don't recall either going into the portal. So for me, more than anything, that was kind of the notable stuff. And then I think Nebraska will find their way down to they have to, but I think they'll find their way down to 105 with, a few more of the walk-on players are going to have to look for opportunities in the spring when that window opens, or, guys are just going to have to decide whether they're done playing football and they want to stay at Nebraska. And then on top of it, you've got a defensive back room that it's going to change over.
29.
Addison Williams isn't going to keep everyone. John Butler isn't going to keep everyone. Mm-hmm. That is a position room where if nothing else happens at the end of 2025, if you're Nebraska, you'd really like Addison Williams to come back so you're not on your fifth defensive back coach in 5 seasons. Yeah. Because and it's not just that it's a different person at the head of the room. These guys all have very different ideas as to the type of players they want.
Yeah.
And Evan Cooper, who is involved in Nebraska's recruiting to a higher level than I suspect Addison Williams will be or John Butler was, really had kind of a soft spot in the type of player that he liked. And I think they got a bunch of guys that are interesting but aren't necessarily ready to contribute. And when you are limited to a 105-man roster right now, I don't know that Nebraska can keep some of those guys around. So then what ends up happening is you have Addison Williams on the road offering a ton of defensive backs because they have to change that room over for what feels like the third time in 4 years. And that presents a really interesting challenge because, what is a Ramir Stewart to Addison Williams? Right. And that's a guy that we've seen him make an interception. We've seen him play, but is he going to have an opportunity to really kind of push for real playing time? Is he, a further backup down the line? We've already seen DiCaprio Bootle leave. So there's some guys where it's like they're going to have to make decisions, and Nebraska is going to have to make decisions because they just can't keep all of these people. And some of them are a lot further away from contributing than where you probably want them to be right now.
Mike, I want to. They lose out on Shiza Pete, the New Mexico state tackle to Kentucky, who apparently dropped an absolute bag in order to get him to get on the team. And maybe that was out of spite a little bit against Nebraska due to the fact that Nebraska has gutted that wide receiver room of Kentucky. But you got Gunnar Gatula at the one tackle spot. Give me your outlook on the other tackle spot right now. Who would you say, and maybe if you don't want to go out on the limb, that's fine, and just give a preview. But I'll ask you, who do you think is the leader in the clubhouse right now to be starting at that other tackle spot come Arrowhead Day against Cincinnati?
Are we okay? So of the two tackle spots, and you're saying Gunnar Gatula is one.
Yes.
So wouldn't Pritchett be the other one?
Is that what you think?
Well, I don't think that he came here to be a backup.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, but there's going to be competition here, right? I mean,
sure, yeah.
You're still going to have. I mean, we're assuming Teddy's coming back. You're assuming Turner's coming back.
Well, there's a super fascinating discussion to be had about the tackle position because you have Prohaska, who has played an entirety of one full season and parts of 3 others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have Turner Corcoran, who never should have been a tackle, but keeps finding his way further out instead of being an interior offensive lineman.
He's about to be a tight end.
Yeah, where is his role in all of this? Because he redshirted to come back. I think he is one of the more fascinating conversations, and I look forward to the next time Matt Rule has a media availability to kind of update where Turner Corcoran is and where Teddy Prohaska is and what Nebraska sees in this situation. Because again, if you're down to a 105-man roster, and you don't know if Teddy Prohaska or Turner Corcoran are going to be able to contribute for you in 2025, or you've got real questions about their health or if long-term viability. It's just it's a really unique spot where they find themselves. And then you have Grant Bricks, who's played at guard at times. You have Brock Knutson. Where's he at on the development track? You have Grant Segrin, who they really liked, and I think Caleb can speak to this. He was popping up on the depth chart on the left tackle spot. You have Tyler Nash.
Yeah.
I mean, they have bodies, but I think a lot of it is they just don't know because you have a weird set of circumstances. The three guys that have played left tackle that are on your roster are all hurt or rehabbing this spring. So I don't know that you're going to get any of Gunnar Gatula, Turner Corcoran, or Teddy Prohaska available a lot this spring. Do you move Elijah Pritchett, who struggled at right tackle at Alabama but played left tackle for a game? Do you move him to left tackle?
Sure.
Is Nebraska currently wading through what's left in the transfer portal to see if there's a warm body that can give them something? Or do you just have to go with what you've recruited over the last few years? To me, the biggest thing going on with Nebraska is that they need to make sure their offensive line recruiting and development makes it so they don't have to go into the portal every year. Because I think it's going to be really challenging for Nebraska to build a team if they have to spend as much money as you do on offensive linemen in the transfer portal. Because that is, I mean, you were talking about Kentucky dropped a bag. Well, Nebraska was never the favorite for Pete until they basically put their own mega offer together that moved them past Vanderbilt. Like, that's how this works. And so, it's a challenging spot, but you really need these tackles you bring in to develop and be good. And that puts a lot of, stress and pressure on Donovan Raiola and on Nebraska's operation as a whole. You really can't afford to miss on a bunch of linemen. You need that group of young guys, the Sam Sledges and the Brock Knutsons and all of those. You need some hits out of that class from a couple years ago. And now's the time. They're going into their third year.
Yeah.
This is when the expectation is that they should be ready to help. And we're going to find out a lot about that this spring.
Going to find a lot about Donovan Raiola and how good of a recruiter and developer he is for sure. So, Mike, great stuff as always, man. Thank you for coming on. We'll see you next Friday, all right?
All right, guys. I appreciate it. Enjoy what's left of your show and your week.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the Creed concert.
Well, that's not a joke. We will. That will be a thing. Mike Schaefer of 24/7 Sports, the best as always, every Friday at 9 o'clock. Hey, we got another guy coming up here. Another Husker football guy, another legend, another national champion. Well, not another. Mike Schaefer isn't a national champion, but this guy, he's a national champion. It's Matt Verel. Coming up next year on Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone. Like we do every Friday here at 9:20, we welcome in Matt Verel, former Husker. You're listening to 1620 The Zone. Gary and Matt. Gary out of office today. Caleb Henry in. Matt Verel joins us on the hotline. Matt, how you doing, my man?
Good, boys. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Hey, I got to ask you, what do you think about these AFC, NFC championship games here? You've had one heck of a year gambling, heck of a year picking these games, looking at the stuff. What's your outlook on Commanders, Eagles, and Bills, Chiefs?
Oh man, I didn't see Washington dismantling Detroit the way they did, but Philly's tough, man. I mean, their offensive line's real good. Shout out Cam Jurgens, and they get downhill and they get after it. And you got a freak in the backfield, Saquon Barkley, and I don't know. It's gonna be uphill. I would say if I was gonna bet it, which I'm not, I would say the Redskins probably cover that number.
Okay, I like that. I think it's going to be a really close game too. And then on the other side, I mean, you got arguably the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl, right? Bills, Chiefs. You think Mahomes gets it done again?
I hope not. I don't like Kansas City at all. I don't like any phase of Kansas City.
Yeah.
Nebraska legend Cleve Blakeman's in on the game, so Kansas City will probably win by 25. But if whatever it takes for Kansas City to lose, I'm good with that.
You want to make? I'll let you make your pick right now for the Super Bowl. One of these four teams. Who would you take?
Oof, that's a tough one
I
because
know.
you got those 2 weeks off are going to be important. If Philly wins, to get them healthy. Hurts has got some issues going on, so they got to survive this and then get healthy. I'll pick the Eagles and the Bills in the Super Bowl. I will, out of respect to Chris Kelsey, who played there forever, I'll take the Bills.
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely love that. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's get into the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We're kind of in a little bit of the dead period here where we start asking all the questions and doing all the hypotheticals and whatnot. But I want to get your take on, you have a lot of expertise, but the O-line is obviously where you've had the most experience in your career. What's your I don't think I've asked you this in all the weeks that you've come on and we've talked to you. Just what's your overall take of Donovan Raiola and the job that he's done so far coaching that Husker offensive line?
I think you're seeing Donovan evolve quite a bit. He'd been in coaching for a while, but never really kind of been the guy that was in charge of the room.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. It's not an easy thing. People think you just walk in there and everybody listens and you do what you're told and away you go. That's not how the world operates. So, kind of seeing him evolve is a pretty cool thing because you're seeing like subtle changes in how they operate. There's some things technically I think you see that they get better at throughout the year. I'd love to see them be better at it earlier in the year.
Sure.
So we don't have to sweat out so many of those early games. But yeah, I mean, he's evolving, he's maturing, and I think he's doing a nice job.
There have been a few guys over the last several years that obviously have gone to the NFL. There have been several guys that are setting records or being one of the guys who with like the most career starts, and those are offensive linemen. On the one hand, Matt, it's nice to get that continuity, but also there haven't been like a lot of hits and a lot of all conference guys for the Big Ten. Do you see that shift happening after 2 years of Matt Rule, Donovan Raiola having that consistency with that room?
So it's an interesting discussion, and it's funny you bring this up because I was talking to somebody about it the other day. But, you see guys that have gone through the program that are still in the league. And you're like, I didn't even know that guy was in the league to start with. So for me, I think Nebraska is in a situation where, and you see them recruit toward it more now. Instead of just being a big body, it's a big athletic body. And it's a guy that, may have wrestled or he's played basketball, which is tougher and tougher with all the different travel crap that goes on. But, for the big men that are out there, their athleticism at times is just a little lacking. And so to see them kind of address that, go after those kind of guys, people just think you're just a big dumb animal out there playing offensive line, but you're really good up front when you got freaks up front, and you got guys like a Cam Jurgens that played tight end all the way through college, was a selfless guy, made the move to center, and and now he's reaping the benefit of it. Like, more guys need to do that. I think they have some people that could move some positions and would increase the athleticism of the offensive line, but they also have some young ones in there that seem to be more athletic. I'm a big fan of the Sledge kid.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be really good. I just don't know when he's going to be really good. It's why I've always loved Evans Jenkins, or just Evans now, because he's been the most athletic guy out there. And so it's good to see that guy getting the shine. Now, he had a bit of a rough stretch this year, but nobody's perfect.
Yeah. No, that's a great shout there, Matt, because you're absolutely right. Like, we would go to these open practices and you would see the offensive line practice, and you would look at Justin. He was Justin Evans Jenkins at the time, now Justin Evans, and you'd be like, oh, he's much smaller. Like, that's different. And then you would see him move, right? You're like, oh, okay. Like, that's why he's there. And it's a great observation about the shift to athleticism. Let's talk about another shift here. You're going to the 105, right? The 105 roster, which I can't stand. But you're at this point going to have to cut roughly, I think the number's around 25 to 30 guys before you get to the very first game against Cincinnati at Arrowhead. And now spring ball is going to turn into, and maybe even fall ball if they don't cut the roster before that, but mainly spring ball is going to be like an NFL training camp. You're going to go from having 130, and there are going to be guys who, if they don't perform well in spring camp, they're going to get cut. How big of a, do you think that'll be a big transition, not only just for the players, but for the coaches as well? The fact that you're going from basically college style where, you don't have those cuts necessarily to, no, with the NFL, like we're slashing a decent amount of this roster.
Is that you don't like it because of the air quote cut that's going to happen?
I don't like the 105, Matt, because I like walk-ons. I think walk-ons are the lifeblood of not only just Nebraska football, but college football in general. So that's why I don't like 105. But this question is more so to do with, like, will you think it'll be a big transition? Basically, they're going to have an NFL training camp now.
Yep. So with the and I would never want to be the numbers person that has to figure that out.
Sure.
But the 105, I mean, the most you can have right now is 85. So in a way, you're able to open up your evaluation and give 20 more out than you had before.
Yeah.
So I think that part of it is the positive. I'm with you on the walk-on thing, but I think, through creativity, there's a lot of, now, this is getting into in-depth rules stuff here, but
sure.
I would find a local college that is at the NAIA level, and I would say, hey, we're going to help you out. We're going to help you out a ton. We're going to send you these kids that we think they may eventually play at Nebraska, but they're going to currently play for you, and here's what you're going to run, and here's how you're going to run it.
Yeah.
And then in a couple of years, we may come get them for spring practice and see how that goes.
Yeah.
So it's the way Bob Devaney used to work Hutch Junior College, is that he's like, yeah, I'm going to send you Mike Rozier, and Mike Rozier ain't going anywhere else but Nebraska. So you just keep him there, you get him eligible, and we'll see him in a couple of years. So it's how creative you want to be. I think if you look at the efficiency of work in it, I think some of the younger, not saying anything about Nebraska.
Sure.
I just think sometimes coaching staffs right now are so focused on some other things that aren't as developmental. And I do think Nebraska is ahead of the curve focusing on development, but you can get a focused development now. To me, it's you have to have a general manager, and what Stanford has done, I think, is very smart. What North Carolina is going to do, it scares the bejesus out of me, because you have a pro GM in there who's going to understand, hey, we can really only carry now, 20 total offensive linemen and 12 total defensive linemen. So figure out how you want that allotted, or whatever those numbers may be, but you have to have somebody that manages that number for you. And for me, all due respect to deep snappers, but at 105, I'd get rid of a deep snapper and be like, all right, who snapped in high school? Because you're now the snapper. Like, we don't need to waste a spot for a deep snapper, and God forbid too.
So. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's all a numbers game now.
Well, and because of the Diego Pavia ruling, and it's only for 1 year now, any non-NCAA years that you used no longer count, and we'll see if that becomes a long-term thing. But Matt, like you said, find an NAI school. Well, there's a couple right there. Find a local JUCO. Close enough. Iowa Western's been having some success.
Yeah.
You can put some of these guys there, and their years don't even count.
It'll be hard to get them to Iowa Western. They're doing pretty good without us.
You're right. They're doing fine, but hey, maybe there's one or two.
There's one in your town, I believe. It's about 30 blocks away from where you are. So maybe you go over there and have a visit, or great spot for you if you got some young upcoming coaches and say, hey, you're going to coach here. You're going to coach this style.
Yeah.
You're going to coach these players.
I like that. Just full development all the way around.
Yeah.
You've created a practice squad without creating a practice squad.
I think, Matt, it's genius. It's curious though, like, you know, Nebraska has always been, and this is dating back to the 70s, on the cutting edge of doing different things, right? Of trying to change things and like setting different standards. I mean, the biggest example is, you know, having the first strength and conditioning coach,
Oscar
right?
Power.
And having and doing that stuff. It'll be interesting to see how creative they get, and maybe if they take your advice. I'll let you do. I don't think we've had you on since the college football playoff national championship, but what'd you think of that game, and what do you think that what Ohio State did, spending that much money on a roster, is something replicable, not just at Nebraska, but across the NCAA?
I think Ohio State kind of got sent to be the lamb to slaughter there.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody was quoting their $20 million number, and oh my God, they spend this. I bet if we ventured out, there's probably a few more schools out there that spent a little bit more and didn't get to bring home the natty. So
yeah. It's a great point.
This is the landscape, okay? So we just have to now figure out this game, all right? So there's going to be a portion of it that's brought in-house now off of revenue, so that's your balance, okay? We can get you this almost as a guarantee, like this is. Now, for me, I would love to make the kid at least sign a 2-year contract, but you have to be here for 2 years if we're going to pay you this. So now you can't just like hate it your freshman year and then leave. Get your money and then leave, right?
Yeah.
You have to be for at least 2. You know, I toyed around in my mind with the idea of 3, but, you know, sometimes that gets to be a bit much. If you want to leave, there's no more money.
Yeah.
And you lose a year of eligibility because you've signed a contract, which I think that's fair, because we want to treat them in this aspect of they're getting money. Okay, you're now a professional. You want to still be called a student athlete, but you are getting paid now. You're a professional, okay? So you'll be treated as such.
Yep.
Here's your contract. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what you're going to do. If you leave before this, there's no more money, and then you lose on the way out. So you'd still lose that year. That's why I like their 5-year rule, just giving kids 5 years right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So if they choose to leave, they just lose that year, and then they just only have whatever's left.
Sure.
But now Nebraska itself has to get creative on how they want to compensate the rest. So that's where 1890, whatever other avenues come in. There's plenty of money in Nebraska.
Yeah.
But one thing Nebraska fan is kind of showing is that, hey, if you're not going to be in the upper echelon of this and we're seeing no return on money, I'm not giving you any more money.
Yeah.
So
need to see that ROI.
Result has to hit on the field, and this is what it's become. Nobody, you don't have to like it. It's much like Nebraska high school football. Everybody's all pissed off because you can go talk to kids and get them to come to your school. These are the rules that the NSAA has laid out. So play by the rules. Go figure it out your way. You don't have to do it like everybody else is doing, but figure it out your way. Same thing in college. You don't have to like it, and you can bitch and piss and moan and stomp your feet and pout your lip.
Yeah.
But you're going to be what you are then. So get ahead of it, figure it out. Because when Nebraska's on the cutting edge of things, as you guys mentioned before, when you're on the cutting edge of it was when Nebraska was good. Right? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Nebraska became a hog, and we got slaughtered. And now we're playing catch-up, so you have to innovate and get ahead of things to get yourself back into the national prominence.
Hey, great stuff as always, Matt. This is absolutely phenomenal. Look forward to seeing you next week, all right?
Sounds good, boys.
Thanks, Matt.
I was Matt Verel, former Husker national champion offensive lineman, on every Friday at 9:20. Dude, I mean, I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. I mean, it would be an incredible precedent to set and something new to do if Nebraska football would go to an NAIA school or a junior college or any sort of smaller school that definitely needs the athletes that they have and say, okay,
create a partnership.
This is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to develop. And then Matt mentioned something also that was incredibly intelligent too. Hey, some younger coaches there, if you coach the right way and you coach your way up, we'll hire you. to be on a staff, whether or not be an assistant role or an analyst role or whatever it may be. And so you start creating a farm system. And you know what? It's a pro model, but where are we heading?
Towards that pro
Pro
model.
football. So get ahead of it.
And you've seen in the coaching circles how tight that could be if you've worked with somebody, or if you've worked with the same system as somebody.
Sure.
And it's always, and some people look at it poorly in that you're just hiring your friends. You're hiring people that you know how they work.
Yes.
In that you like how they operate. And does it always work out? No, we saw that.
Clearly.
But who is Matt Rule hiring? People that either he likes or people that he likes has worked with.
Yeah.
That's just the way the coaching community works.
All righty. Well, we got one more segment left before we head into the weekend. Gonna act like a bunch of animals on the weekend,
I meant
we?
to do that earlier, but this works out.
I love
There
it.
you go, just for you.
Hey, keep this turned up for a little bit. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, don't forget. Sorry, voice guy. Don't forget Hope Lodge Omaha. That's where to be. 10 to 6 today. Coming up right after this, the Happer Show will be live, and then USC today. Go there. You know what it's all about for the Hope Lodge Omaha in advance of Creighton's Pink game tomorrow at 12:30 at the Chai. Here's Matt.
It's been a heck of a week of shows. It's been a heck of a week of sports. And we are here in the final segment of the week. I want to thank Caleb Henry for joining me on today.
Yes,
Gary
yes.
Sharp, typically my co-host here on Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone, but he is out on the road with the University of Nebraska Omaha Mavericks, who are having an incredibly historic season. Currently 6-0 in the Summit League, 8-game win streak.
Undefeated since you moved here?
Undefeated since I moved to Omaha, and they play the ORU Golden Eagles this weekend. So Caleb Henry is here.
It's me.
And that's most important.
Just so we, just because we didn't think that there would be more news to be had. And by the way, this is just such a random, not a random, but like it's been a crazy NFL weekend or week in general. Just Liam Cohen goes from not being the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach to then Trent Baalke getting fired to then Liam Cohen becomes the head coach. And then out of nowhere, out of the clouds, Tom Brady with Botox and incredible jawline drops down and says, you know what, Pete Carroll, you're the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Come on down. Pete Carroll is 72 years old?
Yeah. Did Brady announce that on TV as part of what he's doing there, or did he announce it as
it just got announced? It just got tweeted that Pete Carroll is now
he's younger than we are.
Interesting.
Not in age, but in everything else.
He is now the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And do you know who gets
will the Raiders run the ball if they have one of the best running backs in football in a Super Bowl?
You always throw a pass.
Okay,
throw an interception.
Just want to make sure
Butler.
Pete Carroll stays consistent.
You think?
Don't give it to Lindell White on 4th and 1 on the national championship on the line.
The Saints have just gotten. The Saints are the ant in the NFL, and everybody has just been stomping. Did you say Lindell White?
Well, I was thinking of the Rose Bowl when he gives it to Lindell White, and they didn't leave Bush in the game.
Yeah.
Well, the play was to fake the one and give to the other, and the game's over.
And I was referring to Marshawn Lynch.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
So,
point is, he's done it twice.
Pete Carroll now, head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know if it's going to work. Vegas has a lot of work to do. Like, granted, they do have some nice pieces in Max Crosby and Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, but like, there's also a lot of problems there, especially in the secondary and on the D-line and
organization as
well, not the D-line. The D-line's actually pretty good, but the secondary is rough, and the O-line isn't as elite as you want it to be. And just in general, like it's one of those things where they also don't have a quarterback. I failed to mention that. They do not have a quarterback, and they unfortunately didn't lose enough games to really put themselves in a position to get a top quarterback in this draft. And even on top of that, the quarterbacks in this draft aren't even that good.
Yeah, it is a down quarterback draft overall, like especially when you're looking at where the guys are at the top. It feels so much like the Raiders, like they had a window of potential success a few years ago and did absolutely nothing with it. Like they had a decent offense, like a good offense.
Well, so they were pretty good with Jack Del Rio, and then they had that run where I think they were 10-4. Or 12 it was 12-4 in 2016. I was saying 10-4 as I think that's when Carr got hurt.
Yeah,
but Derek Carr breaks his leg. They end up losing in the wild card, and like that was kind of their year. I mean, Khalil Mack was having one of the best defensive seasons he's ever really had. I mean, that we've seen. I think he won Defensive Player of the Year that season, and so and then you end up having Gruden comes in, he signs a 10-year contract, and it seems like, okay, they're going to build something, him and what's his name?
Exactly.
Is that Barstool now?
No, not Gruden, but his general manager, Mike Mayock.
Yeah.
Mike Mayock and him, they were going to be the team to build together and build this roster, and then Gruden essentially got code redded, if we're going to just put it lightly, and it just happened, the
Black
6
ball.
emails that got leaked from the Dan Snyder investigation in Washington just happened to all be really bad emails sent by John Gruden, which rightfully so, he got fired. You can't have that guy around after doing that. I'm not defending that, but that team did end up making the playoffs under Rich Bisaccia, but they decided not to keep Bisaccia, instead hire
exactly.
No.
That's the point of their
No. McDaniels out of Josh McDaniels out of New England. That was an absolute dumpster fire that no one liked to be his coach. And
Denver
then
fans not.
They go with Antonio Pierce, and Antonio Pierce wins a couple of games at the end of the season to keep his job, and then it just didn't seem like organizationally it was going to fit. So now here comes Pete Carroll, and it's like, okay, you got to find a quarterback. But what this also boils down to is he's 72. Wilson. So if you don't find a quarterback until year 3, then he's going to be 75. And like, that's nice being like, oh, in 3 years, you'll find your quarterback. And then on top of all of that, it's like, I mean, the roster still needs a lot of work as well. And they can't just bring in Kirk Cousins or bring in a rental and be like, okay, here you go. Like, we're going to go and win. I mean,
because they're going to go somewhere that's not a complete, like, starting over.
No.
Like, those types of free agent quarterbacks are not going to go somewhere unless it's, okay, I've got decent protection. I can have some success.
Literally nobody else wants me.
Yeah, the team is going to do that. Now, Raiders coaching, head coach position, now off the board. How many more places for Dion? How many more places for the rumored NFL for Dion?
There's only one.
It's Dallas. It's Dallas, and it's the Saints. I think those are the only 2 left.
Please make it happen, Dallas. I want to cheer for.
Considering some of the other options, I will take Dion at this point.
It's Dallas.
I want to watch
it
burn in the best way possible.
I mean, if you've been in Dallas in the summer, it's easy to do.
We're essentially breaking this down. The Patriots got their top guy. They wanted Mike Vrabel from the jump. They got him. The Bears wanted Ben Johnson from the jump. They got him. Aaron Glenn was tied to the New York Jets pretty early on. I think that's the guy that they wanted, which I think is. I mean, look, I like Aaron Glenn, but how do you go? Like, there's really no difference. There's not a ton of difference between hiring Robert Saleh and hiring Aaron Glenn. You're hiring the best offensive coordinator in the NFC, who's had the most successful run over the last couple of years, whose team has had playoff success. I mean, it's literally. I'm not going to say it's carbon copy, but it's pretty similar. Jaguars get Liam Cohen. It's very obvious that was their second pick, but good on them. Raiders make a big slam dunk and Pete Carroll. The Saints, man. I mean, they
Mike
are
McCarthy.
Everybody's got the boot, and they're the maybe, and that wouldn't be a bad decision. But I feel like if you're the Saints right after Glenn was done, because Glenn did apologize that Aaron Glenn called the Saints, so obviously I think the Saints had offered the job to Glenn at that point. Wouldn't be a terrible hire to get in Mike McCarthy and kind of raise the floor, not too high of a ceiling. Talking about getting people in here, we'll go to Sam, who's on the line.
Yes, he wants to talk to you.
Sam,
guys.
What's up, my man?
Hey, gents. Yeah, I'll premise all of this by saying, Nebraska basketball is my first love of all sports. Like it's the team that I root for the most part, like above everybody else. And so, after they lost the other night, I'm one to not listen to anything the next couple of days because I just don't want to hear it. I just don't. It's not my cup of tea, but good on Jimmy. And at least, I subscribed because I opened up my podcast app this morning and the first segment was appropriately named, Will They Ever Win Again? And so there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention here.
Yeah.
I already had gone to the gym. I'm an early riser. So one thing I wanted to, or a couple of things I wanted to touch
real
on.
quick.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to touch on was the guy that always calls in, the Creighton guy that always calls in and likes to troll a little bit. Yeah. He's like, well, if how are people? I don't know what message board he's reading, but how are Nebraska fans, so not calling for his head? Well, one, Hoiberg actually made a change last year. Things are going different, or 2 years ago. And two, they've lost 5 games, and you're still in the conversation for the NCAA tournament. I think that's bad enough. Kind of gives you reason to not fire Fred Hoiberg. But also, I wanted to get your take, and I know you don't have a ton of time, but what if they kind of digressed back to what they were doing last year, where they put in Ephesian and then they let Bryce run point, and they have Wooster and they come in off the bench and giving him a different look, but the next 5 games will tell you exactly what Nebraska is going to be this season. I'm not guys falling kind of guy. So,
absolutely.
I still believe that they will make the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
But their ceiling is a little bit lower than I thought it was.
I appreciate that, Sam. Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much. Look, I'll answer your question here. Why wouldn't they go Bryce at the 1? They put Ulis and Wooster on the bench. They don't have the spacing. That's why they were able to do it last year. You had better 3-point shooters.
CJ Wilcher, Jamarcus Lawrence, Keisei Tominaga. You still had Bryce out there. You still had Jawan out there. Rink Mast able to stretch the floor as a big man.
Yeah.
It's a different offense.
But I like the confidence, Sam. I like the optimism. I like the trust. And you know what? They have a hell of an opportunity this weekend when they take on Wisconsin on Sunday.
Opportunities.
Creighton basketball. Men at 12:30, women at 4:30. Omaha hockey this weekend. They play tonight against St. Cloud State. Massive weekend of sports, AFC, NFC championship game. You got everything you want this weekend. Thank you so much for
Save us, Josh Allen, please.
Thank you so much for listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone.